Chapter 1036. Xiang Yang, Qin Qianlong and the rest were not slow. In fact, when Su Yun had gathered them, he had already informed them to gather their own strength. Now that he had asked them to gather all their disciples, it was naturally very fast. The disciples of the Carefree Hall and the Hidden Dragon Hall already knew that the three great sects had formed an alliance. Now that they had gathered together, they didn't feel that it was strange. They just thought that their sect heads had some important actions to carry out. As for the disciples of the Dali Palace, they didn't feel that there was anything strange about it. After all, as the defeated sect, they followed Qin Qianlong's lead. Su Yun had also informed Qi Go of this operation. Regarding this matter, Qi Go still did not obstruct him at all. He had always believed in Su Yun, so no matter what decision Su Yun made, he would give him more support. When Su Yun led the round demon and the rest to the illusory cloud plain, it was already densely packed with sect disciples. At a glance, it was filled with human heads, and the pure white cloud plain was filled with a dense black mass. It was an extremely spectacular scene. This time, the immortal sects had probably mobilized a total of over 1,000,000 immortals. With so many immortals, if they move together, they will definitely attract a lot of attention. After this operation, I'm afraid we will have a lot of trouble. The round demon scanned the people on the illusory cloud plain and said in a low voice, "The Peerless sect has been attacked, and is already in imminent danger. The situation is too sudden, I have no choice but to do this." Su Yun said, "I will not obstruct anything that Lord Demon Lord has done. If what Lord Demon Lord has done is wrong, then what I should do is correct your mistake. However, what the round demon is concerned about is the current situation. Don't you think it's a little strange?" At this time, the round demon suddenly turned around, cupped his fists and said seriously, "The situation?" Su Yun frowned and turned to look at him. "What do you think is strange?" The Peerless sect is considered a famous immortal sect in the immortal world. Its strength is so strong that even the Dali Ling Long Palace can't be compared to it. However, such a sect was suddenly attacked by others. "Don't you think it strange?" the round demon said. "Since the other party chose to seize the divine body, how could he not be prepared? The Peerless sect was probably caught off guard." Su Yun said. But not long ago, the round demon asked the disciples who were guarding the Peerless sect and keeping an eye on the Peerless sect. They claimed that they did not see the Peerless sect sending any disciples to the other sects to ask for help. Even when the sect was breached, they did not ask for help. Isn't this enough to explain something? Hearing that, Su Yun started to think. After a moment, his voice became gloomy. "Elder Yuan Mo means that the Peerless sect actually took the initiative to let them in? That's possible," the round demon said in a low voice. "After all, that is the encampment of the Peerless sect. How can it be broken through so easily? I think that other than the Immortal Court, no matter who attacks the Peerless sect, the Peerless sect will more or less be able to hold on for a period of time. However, from the time the other party attacked to the time they attacked the sect, it had only been a day. Isn't that too fast? Unless the other party launched a sudden attack like we did to the Great Ling Long Palace, and took advantage of all the favorable factors while they were unprepared. However, it is impossible for the current Peerless sect to not be vigilant. If the Great Ling Long Palace's vigilance system was 0, then the current Peerless sect's vigilance system should have reached 100, so this hypothesis is not valid, and can only be established if they let the other party in. Listening to Elder Yuan Mo's words, it is possible that the Peerless sect let the other party in on their own. Since that's the case, then what is the Peerless sect going to do? Destroy the other party in one fell swoop? Su Yun asked. "I don't know about this." The round demon shook his head. "It's also possible to eliminate them. Perhaps it's also possible to investigate the mastermind behind this." "Then does Elder Yuan Mo think we should go on this trip?" "We can wait and see. We will first head to the Peerless sect, but we cannot directly intervene. Right now, Lady Chinger is still fine, so we should not act rashly. Otherwise, if the peerless sect really has a plan, it would be terrible if we disrupt it. All right. Su Yun nodded. Then let's do as Elder Yuan Mo says. I am only saying that. If Lord Demon Lord has a better idea, please ignore my words. The round demon hurriedly said. No need, Lord Yuan Mo's words make sense. Su Yun said. The whirlwind sped up and headed towards the illusory cloud plane. A long rainbow light flashed above the illusory cloud plane, and all the disciples below raised their heads to look up. When the rainbow light was right in front of the disciples, it stopped. Qin Qianlong, Xing Bai, Wei Ming and Xiang Yang all flew over and greeted Su Yun. Master, everything has been prepared. We can set off at any time. This place is shrouded in clouds and mist. It is easy for our people to not be discovered by the other immortals. The peerless sect is currently busy with their own matters and will not be able to discover our existence. Xiang Yang and Xing Bai walked over and said respectfully, Have you sent any spies to the peerless sect? We have sent out 10 waves of spies, and 6 have already returned. The battle in the peerless sect is already very intense. The other party has sent out a first-stage spirit god expert to intervene in the battle. All the experts of the peerless sect are participating in the battle, but the peerless sect is still unable to hold on. Ao Wushuang is already injured, and was forced to retreat to recuperate. Qin Qianlong said. What? Ao Wushuang is injured? Su Yun was shocked. How is this possible? Ao Wushuang's strength is obvious to all. To be able to injure him so easily, he must be a great immortal sect sovereign. Yuan Mo said in a low voice. His voice was filled with doubt. When we first heard the news, we were also shocked. However, the truth is as it is. Ao Wushuang was directly beaten down by the other party and looked extremely miserable. If not for a few elders of the peerless sect risking their lives to protect him, he would have most likely died. Now, a group of people from the peerless sect are hiding in the forbidden grounds, relying on the array formation of the peerless sect to barely resist. Qin Qianlong said. Hearing that, Su Yun's face became extremely ugly. However, after a moment, he seemed to have thought of something and asked again, Then, did the peerless sect send people to the other sects to support? This. Qin Qianlong thought for a moment and frowned. I didn't see it. You didn't see it? The last time the great immortal sects tried to force the peerless sect to abdicate, the peerless sect called for help from several influential sects in the immortal realm. This time, the danger is much greater than the last time. How could they not send people to ask for help? Su Yun took a deep breath, turned to look at Yuan Mo and nodded, then said, Maybe it is as Elder Yuan Mo said, the peerless sect is just putting on an act. They should have a plan to do this. It is extremely possible. Yuan Mo nodded. Then, Master, what should we do now? Xiang Yang asked. Su Yun thought for a moment, then waved his hand and shouted, Don't care about anything else. Everything is just our conjecture. We do not know the exact situation. Let's get closer to the peerless sect first and see what happens. If the situation is not what we think, we will immediately take action and help the peerless sect. Yes. Xiang Yang and the rest received the order and immediately sent the message. The army immediately moved. All the immortals on the illusory cloud plains started to flow like a torrent, directly flying out towards the peerless sect. Such a grand scene, probably no one in the entire immortal realm could do it. Su Yun was a little apprehensive. Actually, Yuan Mo's guess was very possible. The peerless sect was breached too suddenly, and Ao Wushuang was also injured too suddenly. Everything seemed a little abnormal, but if all of this was not intentional by the peerless sect, then Qing Air's situation was extremely dangerous. With this apprehensive state of mind, he seemed to be a little anxious as he quickly led the large army towards the peerless sect. However, before the army could reach the peerless sect, A group of disciples from the Hidden Dragon Hall flew over from the direction of the Peerless sect, and directly flew over. Seeing that, Qin Qianlong bellowed, "Master, it's the 7th wave of scouts that I sent out." Quickly asked. Su Yun bellowed. Qin Qianlong nodded and sent a message. The scouts immediately rushed over. "Hall Master!" everyone shouted. "How's the situation at the Peerless sect?" Qin Qianlong asked anxiously. Reporting to Hall Master, half of the Peerless sects have been breached. This time, there were a lot of people attacking the Peerless sect, roughly about 300,000, and more than 10 sects participated. But according to my investigation, the enemy seems to have started to retreat, and have no intention to continue attacking. Retreat? Qin Qianlong was stunned. Su Yun was also stunned. His eyes flickered and his face was a little ugly. He anxiously asked that person, "Did the Peerless sect repel them?" "Not really." The scout shook his head. The Peerless sect has always been at a disadvantage, and was unable to resist at all. They retreated on their own. Retreated on their own. Su Yun's heart was beating wildly, and a bad thought floated in his mind. "Report!" Just then, an extremely loud voice came from afar. Qin Qianlong looked over, and realized that it was another group of scouts rushing over. "It's the 8th group!" Qin Qianlong bellowed. Su Yun looked over with a burning gaze. However, this group of people rushed over swiftly, and without waiting for anyone to ask, they immediately shouted, reporting to Hall Master. This subordinate has found out that the other party has already captured the possessor of the divine spirit body, and is currently retreating at full speed. The voice was loud and clear, and rippled out. But with that said, Su Yun's entire body froze. Xiang Yang, Qin Qianlong, Xing Bai and Wei Ming all looked at Su Yun, only to see that Su Yun's face was as ugly as a piece of paper. His lips trembled for a moment, then he muttered to the scout, "What did you just say?" Reporting to Master, this subordinate has found out that the other party has already captured the possessor of the divine spirit body, and is currently retreating at full speed. The scout replied loudly again. But this time, like a sledgehammer, it fiercely smashed onto Su Yun's chest. Retreat at full speed? They had already captured the possessor of the divine spirit body? That meant that Qing had already been captured? Peerless sect could not protect Qing His entire body trembled, and he came to his senses. His face suddenly turned sinister, and he roared loudly. "Pass down the order! Advance at full speed! I don't care what method you use this time. I want all those who peeped at the divine spirit body to die. All of you charge! Charge!" Qin Qianlong and the rest were all startled, but seeing Su Yun's eyes that were gradually turning red and crazy, they understood that Su Yun was not joking. "Everyone, advance at full speed. Use magic treasure to hurry. Target Peerless sect. Faster. Advance faster. If anyone is slow, they will be executed. All of you, hurry up. Prepare to fight at any time." Xiang Yang, Wei Ming, Xing Bai and Qin Qianlong immediately reacted, and roared loudly. "Charge!" Shouts erupted from the million people. Chapter 1037. If it was said that Su Yun was only worried before, then this time, he was truly anxious. The divine spirit body was definitely Qing'er, there was no mistake about that. However, he never thought that Ao Wushuang would not be able to protect Qing'er in the end. The army advanced at full speed. Because there were a lot of immortals, everyone's speed was different. As a result, the entire army was dragged into a long line that stretched across the sky. The people at the front were almost close to the Peerless sect, but the people at the back had just flown out of the illusory cloud plane. "Master, we must wait for the people behind us. Otherwise, if the battle line is too long, no matter what happens, it will be extremely disadvantageous to us." Xing Bai looked at the formation of the army, and immediately rushed towards Su Yun, shouting at him. However, at the moment, Su Yun's eyes were slightly red. His expression was anxious. How could he still be in the mood to listen to his words? Master! Xing Bai shouted again. But Su Yun's speed had increased by quite a bit. Seeing that, the round demon frowned. He increased his speed, and caught up to Su Yun with great difficulty. Lord Demon Lord, in truth, if you were to chase after them like this, you might not be able to save Miss Qinger and might even harm her. When these words fell, it was like a beam that blocked Su Yun's path, causing his entire body to immediately slow down. What do you mean by that? Su Yun turned his head and stared at the round demon seriously. Seeing that, the round demon immediately cupped his fists and said in an extremely serious tone, Master Demon Lord, our battle line is so long, and the vanguard only has less than 20,000 people, and it is said that there are more than 300,000 people attacking the Peerless sect. Even if we catch up, we will definitely not be able to save Miss Su Qinger. Maybe the other party saw us attacking, and in a moment of desperation, they might do something to Miss Qinger. That is for sure. The methods of the immortals are called ever-changing, and to put it bluntly, it is called strange and unpredictable. If we do not have a method to save Miss Qinger, it is better not to rush in like this, or else. The round demon spoke very sincerely. Seeing that, the other people in charge did not say anything and looked at Su Yun in unison. In fact, they were also a little uneasy. Once a person was impulsive, the flaws that would be exposed would be countless. Seeing that, Su Yun's heart tightened. He panted heavily and lowered his head in thought. Although his intention was to stop him, Su Yun himself understood that if he were to rashly go over, the possibility of failure would be even higher. Even if he caught up to those people, he might not be able to successfully stop them. Then, does Elder Yuan Mo have any way to save Qinger? Su Yun took a deep breath and asked. This, the round demon thought for a moment, then said in a deep voice, Lord Demon Lord, we should determine the direction in which they are retreating, rush to their destination in advance, and launch a sneak attack on them. This way, the chances of us winning back Miss Qinger will be higher. Determine the direction of their retreat? Even if the scouts we sent out knew which direction they were heading in, they would definitely lose track of them after notifying us. Not to mention, how would we reach the central region where they were headed? How could he surpass the other party's ambush? These problems aren't easy to solve. Xiang Yang, who was sitting next to him, started to chatter. Although he knew that the round demon had good intentions, these things were simply impossible for the current situation. The round demon ignored Xiang Yang's words and didn't even look at him. Elder Yuan Mo, what Lord Xiang Yang said is also what I want to say. Do you think it's possible for us to go around to the front and set up an ambush for them? Su Yun asked in a low voice. It all depends on the person. The round demon said in a low voice, there is nothing absolute in this world. Even the supreme experts are not truly invincible. Right now, those thieves who attacked the Peerless sect and stole the Divine Spirit's body have already fled, but compared to us, they actually have a similar drawback. But they are not as serious as us. What drawback? That is, there are more people and more speed. The round demon said seriously, we have more than 1 million immortals, and it took us a lot of time to get here, but the other party has more than 300,000, and although they don't have as many people as us, they are still quite a lot, and if they have more people, they will definitely move slower, and these 300,000 immortals are definitely not from a single sect. Since Miss Qinger has fallen into their hands, the people from the various sects will definitely start thinking about how to snatch Miss Qinger alone, obtain the Divine Spirit's body, and become a supreme existence, so I am sure that once these people escape from the Peerless sect, there will definitely be a dispute. Because the Peerless sect is powerless to chase after them, they are actually already safe, so when they escape, they will not escape at full speed if we want to go around them and set up an ambush. It will definitely be easy. As soon as these words fell, everyone's eyes lit up. Even Su Yun nodded his head. There was only one Divine Spirit body, and the other party was obviously not a single immortal sect, but an organization formed from many immortal sects. This kind of existence had a huge internal conflict, and once it exploded, the consequences would be unimaginable. Although they had left the Peerless sect in a hurry, their journey would definitely be extremely slow. Since that's the case, then this subordinate will immediately contact the scouts and have them report the location. Qin Qianlong hurriedly shouted. No need, the scouts used magic to send the message. There was a half an incense stick of time difference in the middle, so there's no need to ask. Su Yun said indifferently, and took out a magic treasure from his bag. When Tian Bao Ling, holding on to the magic treasure, he slightly activated the immortal qi, causing the magic treasure to release a bright white halo of light. Su Yun stared at the halo of light, and after a while, he kept it. After thinking for a while, he raised his hand and shouted, Everyone, change your direction and rush towards the Wuyue sky. The people in front are slower by a bit, the people behind are faster by a bit. The distance between the front and back of the formation cannot exceed 10,000 meters. Everyone must be on guard. No one is allowed to bring anything. If anyone is late, they will be immediately killed. There will be no mercy. Everyone, move. Quick. Hearing that, everyone was startled at first, but then they reacted. The magic treasure that Su Yun used just now seemed to be a magic treasure that could lock onto a position. But what they did not know was that Su Yun's Wen Tian Bao Ling was not locked onto Su Qing for some reason. Su Qing was unable to lock onto her position. Maybe it was because the other party had cast a spell, making it impossible to pinpoint her position, so he could only choose the scouts from the Hidden Dragon Hall. After knowing the approximate location, Su Yun knew the route that the other party was preparing to retreat. Although he had not been in the immortal world for a long time, because Su Qing was in the Peerless sect, he knew all the terrain around the Peerless sect like the back of his hand. After confirming the direction, the army formed by the four great immortal sects directly rushed towards Wuyue in the sky. The outer area of the Peerless sect was already filled with a turbulent aura of destruction and the pungent smell of blood. The once majestic and solemn entrance of the Peerless sect was now in ruins. It was desolate, and the ground was littered with corpses. It was hard to tell if they were the corpses of the Peerless sect or the intruders. The entire area was dyed red with blood. Unknowingly, a group of people walked out from the inner area of the Peerless sect. All of them were dressed in the same attire, but many of them were tattered, their hair was unkempt, and their faces were dirty. They seemed to be in a very sorry state, but their expressions were unusually serious. Those who were covered in blood did not seem to be in pain, which was rather strange. If one looked closely, they would be able to see that the injuries on their bodies, which looked extremely serious, were actually not that serious. These people were all from the Peerless sect, and the one walking in front was the Ji Zun of the Peerless sect, Ao Wu Shuang. He quietly looked at the ground littered with corpses. His steps were slow and heavy. Every corpse on the ground that was wearing the Peerless sect's attire, he would take a few more glances. How many people have we sacrificed this time? He turned his head and asked with a slightly hoarse voice. Ji Zun, we have lost 375 disciples. Elder Qing walked forward and cupped his fist. I am referring to the number of people after the elimination. Ao Wu Shuang said solemnly. Ji Zun, this is the number of people after the elimination. After Ji Zun decided on this plan, she purposely lowered the threshold of the sect's recruitment, and purposely recruited the spies sent by the other sections. In this chaos, the people that sect leader sent were mostly spies from the other sects, and the number of Peerless sect disciples who actually rushed to the front line was actually not that many. Even so, we still lost more than 300 people. Elder Qing's voice sounded rather helpless. More than 300 people. Just because of my plan, another 300 people have died. Ao Wu Shuang's voice was hoarse. The people behind looked at each other, and one of them said anxiously, Ji Zun, don't be sad. This time, the other party had too many people, but with your plan we killed almost 10,000 of them. Although we pretended to be beaten up badly on the surface, and retreated as we fought, but because we kept retreating, the other party rashly advanced, causing the few traps that we had previously set to have a miraculous effect. Their losses are more than 10 times of ours. As the person spoke, his face was filled with excitement. Ao Wu Shuang did not reply. After a moment of silence, he turned around and looked at the few women not far behind him. Those people were Shangguan Qingqing, Shangguan Meiyang, and Su Qing. This time, we successfully lured the other party into attacking, and created a fake divine body for them. Although we lost a few hundred elite disciples, and more than half of the sect was destroyed by the other party, this time we still won. Elder Qing, have you sent out your spies? Ao Wu Shuang asked. We have successfully mixed in with those fellows. I believe that we will be able to investigate all the information about the other party very soon, and we may even be able to know their plans first. Elder Qing said. Very good. Ao Wu Shuang nodded, and his face was somewhat sinister as he growled. This divine body was thrown to them, and they will definitely fight amongst themselves. We only need to wait for the right time, and once the time is ripe, we will immediately take action, and annihilate all these sects with ulterior motives. Since the opportunity has come, we must seize it. Yes. Ji Zun. Chapter 1038. The attack on the Peerless sect was all part of Ao Wu Shuang's plan. In the entire immortal world, there were too many people who coveted the divine body. He knew that as long as Su Qing lived in the Peerless sect would never be at peace. Endless troubles would come one after another. However, to solve these troubles, the most straightforward way was to let others know that Su Qing was no longer in the Peerless sect, and that she no longer had a divine body. But how should he tell everyone? Peerless sect sent her away? If he sent her away quietly, no one would believe that the Peerless sect had really sent her away. If he sent her away openly, it would be the same as pushing Su Qing into a pit of fire. Shangguan Qingqing and Shangguan Meiyang would never allow it. If that was the case, Ao Wu Shuang would have handed her over when countless sects tried to force the Peerless sect to abdicate. That would have saved them a lot of trouble. Since he could not send her away, Ao Wu Shuang thought about it and decided to let someone else take her away. Hence, he had this plan. The people of the Peerless sect had already started to clean up the battlefield. Shangguan Meiyang looked around, turned around and said to Su Qing who was standing behind her, Qing I believe we will be at peace for the next few days. You should rest well too. Don't think too much, everything will be fine. Hearing that, Qing nodded her head, but a look of worry surfaced on her face. Master, who is the person that they snatched away as a divine body? That person? Shangguan Meiyang was startled for a moment, then laughed. It is said that he is a sinner in the Peerless sect. Originally, he was going to be executed by Father, but coincidentally, he met with such a situation, so Father brainwashed him, and at the same time used a treasure to disguise him as you, with your qi. Although that person will die, you don't have to worry. It is said that he committed an unforgivable crime, and killed many people. Such a person's death is not to be regretted. For him to die in such a way, it can be considered as his compensation to the Peerless sect. Is that so? Su Qing's eyes swayed for a moment, then faced Shangguan Meiyang and bowed seriously, and said with a serious expression, Master, Qing has a request. I wonder if you can help Qing. Request? Shangguan Meiyang looked at her curiously. What request do you have? Su Qing pursed her lips and said, What happened here will definitely spread throughout the entire immortal world, and now that young Master is in the immortal world, if he finds out about what happened here, I'm afraid he will be extremely anxious and will chase after those people. He has just entered the immortal world, and is not strong. If he finds those people, then he will definitely be in danger. So Master, Qing'er hopes that you can send someone to inform young master, and tell him that the person who was taken away is not me, so that he can calm down and not be impulsive. How about this?" Hearing that, Shangguan Mei Yang's small face revealed a difficult expression. She thought for a moment, smiled, and patted Su Qing'er's white hands, and said, "Qing'er, don't be anxious, I will go and ask father. If I were to personally inform Su Yun, I am afraid my father will not allow it. Furthermore, I do not know where the immortal seeking sect is, so I need to see his intentions." "Yes, thank you, master." Su Qing'er nodded obediently and bowed. "Wait for me," Shangguan Mei Yang said, then turned and walked towards Ao Wushuang. Seeing that, Shangguan Qingcheng looked at Su Qing'er and immediately walked over. Shangguan Mei Yang lowered her head and said something to Ao Wushuang. It could be seen that she was still a little nervous. Shangguan Qingcheng did not say a word, she only stood at the side and listened quietly. Ao Wushuang's face was gloomy, but at the beginning, he did not reveal any displeasure. He said a few words, but Su Qing'er could not hear it, and saw that Shangguan Mei Yang continued to say a few more words, her expression becoming anxious, but after repeating it a few times, Ao Wushuang seemed to be getting impatient. He shook his head, and ignored Shangguan Mei Yang's words, and directly turned to deal with other matters. Shangguan Mei Yang chased a few steps forward, but seeing Ao Wushuang's attitude, she finally gave up, sighed and walked towards Su Qing'er. Although she could not hear the conversation between the two clearly, Su Qing'er had been staring at them, and she already knew the result. "Does Ji Zun Ao not agree?" she said in a low voice. Father was worried that the news would leak out and the plan would fail, so he rejected the request to send someone to inform Su Yun. He thought that after Su Yun knew the other party's strength, he would definitely retreat. Young master knows everything, but he never knows what it means to retreat. Ji Zun does not understand young master. "I'm sorry, Qing'er," Shangguan Mei Yang said with some guilt. "It's all right, master. You have already saved Qing'er many times. Qing'er can't even thank you enough. How can I blame you?" Su Qing'er smiled and said she looked like she was fine, but her acting skills were too sharp. Shangguan Mei Yang could see the worry and nervousness in her heart. "I will think of another way. But what else can we do?" Su Qing'er said softly. Her fist was already clenched tightly, her eyes swayed, as though she was thinking about something. Shangguan Mei Yang and Su Qing'er had been together for a long time, and she understood her disciple quite well. She knew that Su Qing'er was a girl who would not give up easily, and if Ao Wushuang rejected her, she would definitely choose to go herself. If Su Qing'er left the Peerless sect, then the nature would be different. "This kind of matter is very easy to solve. Why are you guys so vexed?" Just as the two girls were worrying, a voice suddenly floated over from the side. Shangguan Mei Yang and Su Qing'er turned to look at the same time, only to see Shangguan Qingcheng walking over. "Mother, do you have any brilliant plans?" Shangguan Mei Yang became spirited and immediately asked. "It should be considered a brilliant plan." Shangguan Qingcheng smiled and said, "Didn't your father say that he was worried that the news would leak out, and refused to tell Su Yun about this plan? Why don't you guys send an envoy to the Immortal Seeking sect, and ask him to come to the Peerless sect?" Come to the Peerless sect. The two girls were startled. They were intelligent people, and immediately understood what Shangguan Qingcheng meant. Since they could not tell Su Yun the truth, and were afraid that he would leak the news, then, if they invited Su Yun here, wouldn't everything be fine? Su Yun could see Su Qing'er here, and Ao Wushuang could see Su Yun, and would be at ease, without any worries. "Mother, that's great, let's use this method," Shangguan Mei Yang said anxiously. "Thank you, Master Ancestor." Su Qing'er was also excited, and was about to kneel down to express her gratitude, but was anxiously supported by Shangguan Qingcheng. "At this time, why are you still talking about gratitude, the two of you? As long as you know your place, it will be the greatest gratitude you can give me." She looked at the two girls dotingly and said with a smile, Well, don't worry about this matter. I'll send someone to the immortal seeking sect. Since it has already happened, let's not delay any further, lest something unexpected happens. With that, Shangguan Qingqing turned and left. Shangguan Meiyang and Su Qinger looked at each other, and both heaved a sigh of relief. In the vast sky, a large group of immortals dressed in luxurious clothes flew through the pure white clouds like eagles soaring through the sky. The number of immortals was extremely large, and all of them were dressed differently. The immortal qi overflowing from their bodies were also of different colors, all of them were different. They flew forward in a circle, and in the middle of them was a huge light screen. In the middle of the light screen, a blurry figure could be vaguely seen. With this light screen that was like a small sun, no one outside knew what the figure looked like, what cultivation level, or what aura it was. It was like a spatial wall that separated the two worlds. It was extremely powerful and mysterious. But at this moment, the number of immortals gathered around the light screen increased. The strength of these immortals was also becoming more and more terrifying. The immortals with low cultivation retreated on their own, leaving behind only the powerful immortals. The 12 immortals who were in charge of activating the light screen finally realized that something was wrong. They all stopped in their tracks and looked around vigilantly. These 12 people all wore the same clothes, and all of them looked old and clumsy. Each of them held a staff in their hand. Although they looked old, their cultivation was extremely outstanding. The power gathered by these 12 people was not to be underestimated. However, none of the immortals who gathered towards the light screen were good people, and their numbers were increasing. In less than half an incense stick of time, tens of thousands of immortals who were close to the profound spirit god realm had already approached. What? The person hasn't even been escorted to the destination, and everyone can't wait anymore. Are you going to decide who it belongs to? The leader of the 12, an old woman, held a staff and flew to the front of the light screen. She stared at the countless immortals who were approaching and said calmly, "Sai, Lord Spirit Chief, please don't misunderstand. Our path of immortality is not interested in the body of a god. This operation is purely due to our sect leader helping you out of consideration for our old friendship. It is purely out of enthusiasm and does not involve any benefit. Since we have captured the body of a god, the people of the path of immortality will naturally leave. We are merely here to inform you that we are about to leave, so, if you want to do anything, please do it. We will definitely not interfere." A young and graceful female immortal flew out and said in a relaxed but slightly playful tone, "Pure enthusiasm? Not participating in this matter? Humph, don't give me that. How can the immortal path not be interested in the god spirit body? You just hope that we will fight to the death later, and you will watch the show from the side. When it's about time, you will take action and pick up a ready-made one, right?" Another person stood out, but he sneered and directly said it out loud. "Hee, there are many people who have such plans. If no one is willing to make a move, I don't mind watching the show. If you don't act, what are you watching? We are all sensible people, so let's be frank. Since everyone likes to play this game, then I don't mind. If that's the case, then the god spirit body can be left there. It can't run away anyway. I would like to see what everyone's plans are. Wait, compete in patience? I like it." These immortals gathered, but they were not in a hurry to make a move. Instead, they mocked and ridiculed each other, as if they were provoking and playing with something. The 12 old men looked around them solemnly. Although everyone else seemed to be watching a show, the more it was so, the more they knew that the upcoming battle would be even more terrifying, because these people were intensifying the conflict between them. Chapter 1039. The figure in the light screen had clearly sensed the battle outside. He began to tremble. He had no way to deal with all of this. He was like a lamb waiting to be slaughtered. He could only silently wait for death to descend. The 12 immortals gathered around the light screen stared at the people around them. The old woman in the lead stood out and said in a deep voice, "Everyone, when we decided to join hands to seize the body of the god, we had already discussed it. After obtaining the body of the god, we would use a duel to decide who would obtain the body of the god. Everything should be carried out according to the plan. Everyone has a chance, but why is it that everyone can't wait anymore? Hey, Lord Spirit Head, our Wind Slasher Hall has always followed the rules. Don't look at me. We don't plan on taking action. It's just that some people have bad intentions. We will obediently wait here." A bald man wearing a brown robe said with a smile. The old woman who was called Spirit Head snorted. Her eyes were filled with disgust. Although he said that, who knew whether or not he would make a move when the time came? On the surface, these people were full of benevolence, but in reality, they were sanctimonious, sinister, and cunning. Since they were after the body of the god, then it was for benefit. In front of benefits, who would dare to say that they had good intentions and were open and aboveboard? Since the Wind Slasher Hall is so righteous, then I ask everyone from the Wind Slasher Hall to quickly leave. Return to the Alliance headquarters first. Don't interfere in the matters here. A person shouted from afar. Leave? How can we do that? The body of the god is here. We have the obligation to escort it back to the Alliance headquarters. How can we just leave like that? Otherwise, the people from the headquarters will put the hat of desertion on our Wind Slasher Hall. If that happens, we won't be able to wash ourselves clean. The bald man said with a smile. The tone of his voice was especially mocking. The Spirit Head snorted but didn't say anything else. Although everyone here was speaking righteously and righteously, everyone was well aware of what kind of thoughts they were harboring. The so-called duel to choose the owner of the god spirit's body was actually not a method, because once this method was used, the weaker celestial sex would be eliminated. How could they be willing to accept this? A portion of the big sex also had a knot in their hearts because they weren't sure if they would be able to obtain the godly spirit's body. No one wanted to work for nothing. Therefore, everyone wanted to take away the godly spirit's body as soon as possible. It was especially so for those small celestial sections. If they could create chaos now, they might be able to take advantage of the chaos to snatch the body of the deity. However, once they returned to the temporary alliance of these celestial sects, there were many experts there, and almost all the power of the big sects was concentrated there. Once they brought the body of the deity there, they would no longer have any chance to come into contact with the body of the deity. Therefore, this path back to the Alliance encampment was the only chance for many people. That's right, Lord Spirit Head, the owner of this god spirit's body. What's with the halo around him? Did you cast a spell on him? At this moment, a middle-aged woman emerged from the crowd and questioned the Spirit Head in the distance. The Spirit Head snorted and said in a low voice, "This is a celestial spell to hide his aura. With this halo around him, he will be completely isolated from us, and not a single bit of his aura will leak out. It can also effectively prevent all kinds of tracking treasures. With this spell, no one will be able to use spells to lock onto our position." Is that so? The woman closed her eyes and sniffed seriously. She then said coldly, "But why is there a small amount of spatial aura in this halo?" What? Spatial aura? Spirit Head, are you planning to transfer the body of the god spirit away? Are you planning to take the body for yourself? How despicable! I've always thought that the 12 celestial beings were upright and aboveboard. I didn't expect that they're just a bunch of sanctimonious people. Haha, they really have a good plan. No wonder back in the meeting hall, they strongly requested for them to be in charge of the security of the body of the god spirit. So this is what they're planning. They want to take the body of the god spirit for themselves. Isn't that how people think about each other? Why do they have to lie to us? Everyone's mocking and ridiculing voices sounded in the surroundings. At this moment, Everyone's spearheads were pointed towards the 12 celestial beings. At this moment, they appeared to be exceptionally united. Spirit Head, since you plan to take the body of the God Spirit for yourself, you violated the agreement we made. Since that's the case, we can only act according to the agreement we made previously. A blue-robed swordsman rushed out and shouted loudly, "All members of the Sword Cloth sect, listen up! Disciple is here." Close to 10,000 people rushed out and surrounded the body of the God Spirit. These fellows had already taken out their weapons. They looked aggressive, as if they were ready to start a war at any time. Everyone looked towards the blue-robed swordsman with an expression of anticipation. However, the blue-robed swordsman's expression froze, and he pointed his sharp sword at the 12 celestial beings. His voice was filled with endless killing intent as he shouted loudly, "These 12 people have ulterior motives and have ill intentions. Furthermore, they have violated the agreement we made previously. Such people are infuriated by both humans and gods. All disciples of the Sword Cloth sect, listen up. Focus on the 12 celestial beings. Kill!" Explosive roars reverberated. When the disciples of the Sword Cloth sect heard this, they all charged towards the 12 celestial beings as if they had gone mad. Sect leader Lon, what are you doing? The face of the celestial beings turned extremely ugly. Quickly stop. Stop? Since things have come to this, what else is there to say? The swordsman did not have any intention of stopping. His eyes were filled with madness as he roared loudly. Once he attacked, he would not stop until he was dead. There were only 12 celestial beings on the celestial beings' side, while the swordsman's side had over 10,000 people. Furthermore, the swordsman did not just stand at the side and watch. He also charged forward. Very quickly, the 12 celestial beings were pinned down and surrounded by the celestial beings. The situation immediately became chaotic. Sect leader Lon, let me help you. At this moment, another person roared loudly. He waved his hand and pointed at the celestial being's body and shouted angrily, "The 12 celestial beings have violated the agreement. They have secretly used a spatial immortal technique to transfer the celestial being that everyone has worked hard to obtain. Everyone seize the celestial being's body. Don't let them succeed." "We obey sect leaders' orders." These people shouted one after another as they charged towards the celestial being's body like a swarm of locusts. Their actions immediately caused the surrounding celestial beings to become nervous. "Hey, what are you doing? How precious is the celestial being's body? How can we allow a small sect like you to transfer it? If it is targeted by other people with ill intentions, how are you going to protect it? In my opinion, it is more appropriate to leave the celestial being's body with us. Brothers, charge for me and seize the celestial being's body." A few nameless small sects dare to cause trouble here. Children of the noble spirit hall, take care of these stupid fellows for me. Let them know that the celestial being's body is not something they can touch. A group of reckless fools. This celestial being's body belongs to our Flame Heart Palace. All of you scram? Hee today, none of you can even think of touching this celestial being's body. The surrounding celestial beings were completely agitated. They seemed to have gone mad as they charged towards the celestial being's body. Like tumbling seawater, the entire alliance army of the celestial sects was in complete chaos. Some celestial sects like the Wind Slasher Hall hastily retreated to the periphery. They seemed to have no intention of getting involved. The surroundings of the celestial being's body immediately became a mess. Multicolored spells flew everywhere. The scene was extremely chaotic. On this side, the heaven and earth were collapsing and there was no order to it. However, in a place far away, within the thick clouds and fog, there was a large number of celestial beings hidden. These people relied on immortal techniques to conceal their figures as they stared coldly at the chaotic scene in the distance. These people were the 4 immortal sects that Su Yun was leading. Seeing that the people in the light screen were still safe and sound, Su Yun's nervous heart finally relaxed. He looked left and right and asked softly, "Have the people behind caught up?" "Reporting to Master, they are rushing over here. Most of them are ready to attack at any time." Xiang Yang, who was at the side, quickly said, "Qing is fine, we don't need to be in a hurry to attack. Although the other party's numbers are not as many as ours, they are all elites with high cultivation. We need to be patient and wait for a while. When they are almost done fighting, we will immediately kill our way out." Su Yun said sinisterly. "Kill them all? Capture the higher-ups and kill the rest. We cannot expose our whereabouts, so before the battle starts, we will first set up an encirclement and surround this place. No one is allowed to escape. Xingbai, I will leave this matter to your carefree palace." "Yes, Master." "Qin Qianlong, get a group of elites to investigate the surroundings. These immortals must have scattered a large number of spies in the surroundings for them to escape. Get rid of all of these spies and set up a formation array at the same time." "Yes." "Wei Ming, your great Ling Long palace will be the main force and attack later. Don't split up and attack first, wipe out all of the severely injured immortals first, then attack the others. Their numbers have decreased sharply, and we can use our advantage in numbers to crush them. Elder Yuan Mo, you must remember, you need to personally lead a group of people. Don't participate in the battle for now, just watch from the side. If an immortal uses an extremely terrifying magic treasure, you need to get rid of that person immediately. Do you understand? Although we have a lot of people, once someone uses a terrifying magic treasure, it will cause many people to lose their lives. These people are our foundation, so we need to minimize our losses as much as possible." "Yes, sir," Yuan Mo hurriedly said. "Very good." Su Yun nodded, killing intent flashing in his eyes. "Now, let us wait quietly for the time to come." Chapter 1040. More than 100,000 people were fighting, and there were still more than 100,000 people watching from the side. It was a fiery scene. Half of the blue sky turned into 7 colors, terrifying immortal qi and destructive qi intertwined. The people of Peerless Sect had already blended in with the countless alliance troop. Ao Wushuang had already planned this long ago. Previously, when he lured these people over to snatch the divine spirit body, he had already secretly prepared a group of Peerless Sect disciples to mix in and observe the situation. When these people started to fight, how could these Peerless Sect's spies remain indifferent? He immediately sent a message to Peerless Sect. Ao Wushuang received the message almost immediately. He immediately led the elites of Peerless Sect and rushed over. If they could eliminate these hundreds of thousands of immortals, it would be a great benefit to Peerless Sect. Firstly, it could intimidate the people of the entire immortal world. Peerless Sect would become famous because of this battle. Secondly, it could also suppress many immortal sects. After this battle, many immortal sects would lose many disciples and their fighting power would be greatly reduced. This would also increase Peerless Sect's position in the immortal world. This was a once-in-a-blue-moon opportunity. These immortal sects had just attacked the Peerless Sect. Logically speaking, the Peerless Sect had the absolute advantage. Even if the immortal court were to question him, he would have sufficient reason to not worry at all. Although Ao Wushuang knew that these immortal sects would fight, he did not expect them to be so impatient. They had just flown out of Peerless Sect and immediately started fighting because of the divine spirit body. With such speed, Ao Wushuang did not have time to prepare and could only hastily gather his men. Su Yun, who was paying attention to Peerless Sect's movements, also received the news. However, he did not intend to stop there. Although Peerless Sect had taken action, he did not want Peerless Sect to lose any more fighting power. After all, Peerless Sect did not owe Qing anything. Now that he had the ability, why should he let others do it? The sky was filled with blood and minced meat. The fallen immortals fell down like raindrops. The cruel scene was not inferior to a war. The 12 spirit heads were completely outnumbered. They didn't last long before they were torn into pieces by the swarming immortals and died a horrible death. The light screen that was wrapped around the divine spirit's body disappeared, and Su Qing'er's appearance was immediately revealed to everyone. She was wearing a blue robe. She had a fair complexion, bright eyes, white teeth, and a slender body. She was like a fairy. Especially at this moment, her entire body was glowing with a white light. She was especially holy and lovely. Even immortals would be tempted by such a beauty. She looked at the immortals charging at her from all sides with a face full of fear, like a sheep in a pack of wolves. Seeing that, Su Yun, who was in the distance, could no longer hold it in. He glanced at the scene and roared to the 4 people in charge beside him, "Get ready." When the 4 of them heard this, they immediately sent out a signal. 4 balls of light rose into the sky, and the millions of immortals in the thick clouds immediately took out their immortal artifacts and prepared their immortal arts. He could feel the intense fighting spirit of the million people behind him, as well as their blood that was gradually boiling. These immortals, who might have joined the immortal-seeking sect, the Great Ling Long Palace, the Carefree Palace, or the Hidden Dragon Hall, had never thought that there would be a day when they would fight alongside a million immortals. This was a sense of belonging that made people excited, a sense of belonging to a powerful force. "Kill!" Su Yun's face turned sinister. He bellowed, holding onto the death sword and the lotus star sword with both hands. He rushed out. At this moment, the sword sheath behind him released countless flying swords without holding back. The sharp swords were like the people behind him, densely packed as they struck towards the immortals. The air was shaking. The buzzing sound made one's eardrums tremble. The terrifying pressure seemed to be able to turn a person's flesh and bones into powder, and a suffocating pressure enveloped the hearts of everyone here. They opened their eyes wide and gazed in that direction. The magnificent spectacle astonished almost everyone present. Immortals! Immortals that blotted out the sky and covered the earth. Immortals that blotted out the sky. They rushed out of the clouds, but there was an endless stream of them. It was like a flood after a dam had burst, crazily pouring down. It was already unknown how many people there were, but they could only feel the surging immortal power crazily surging towards them. These immortals raised the immortal equipment in their hands high up, each of them releasing terrifying spells, directly throwing them over. The immortal techniques were like raindrops, smashing down fiercely. The surging immortal arts stimulated the pores of every immortal. At this moment, they finally felt fear. "There's a situation." The immortal at the very front roared at the top of his lungs. "So many people, what's going on? Where did this person come from? Be careful!" The sound echoed in all directions. The people who were still fighting fiercely finally reacted, and all of them hurriedly stopped and retreated. The appearance of the immortals in the distance was like a tranquilizer, completely calming down the people who had gone crazy because of the divine body. However, these immortals not only gave them calmness, but also endless pressure, fear, hesitation, panic. "Kill them all, don't leave a single one alive." Su Yun, who was leading the way, roared with his loudest voice. This roar shook the sky and lingered between heaven and earth. "Who are you?" the Hall Master of the Wind Slayer Hall shouted. But no one answered him. What welcomed him was a sharp longsword and a terrifying immortal technique. There were people in all directions. These people had originally thought that they had a lot of people on their side, and believed that no immortal sect would be able to contend against so many allied forces. Furthermore, these allied forces were all elites, but the number of people the other side had sent out was even more terrifying. Behind the clouds was like the mouth of a ferocious beast that was constantly spitting out things. Immortals rushed out one after another. In the blink of an eye, the immortals on the allied side were completely suppressed by the other side. Terrifying immortal techniques rained down on them. They had been killing each other before, so many of them were injured. This time, the main force of the Allied forces was actually the immortals who had been watching from the side. The army pounced over like a swarm of locusts. These 200,000 immortals were immediately engulfed, and all of them were surrounded and crazily killed. More blood splattered, and more immortals fell. In the blink of an eye, the immortal realm had turned into a cruel purgatory. Su Qinger, who was surrounded by the crowd, was extremely terrified. She curled up her body and trembled. She was like a completely frightened rabbit, and the so-called sense of security was already very far from her. Qinger! A loud shout floated over. However, Su Qinger, who was curled up, did not have any reaction. It was as if she did not hear the voice, and only when she felt someone approaching did she anxiously raise her head and look over in fear. This glance scared her to the point that her courage was about to shatter. It was the person who was charging at the front. She knew, she had also seen, that this countless army of immortals seemed to be brought by this person. "Don't kill me! Don't kill me!" she said in fear. When that person got close to Su Qinger, his face changed. "You're not Su Qinger?" Su Yun asked with an ugly expression. I'm not. I don't have a divine body, don't kill me. Please don't kill me, I was just disguised as Su Qinger and was captured by them." This Su Qinger trembled as she shouted, and her words were somewhat unclear. Su Yun frowned. After thinking for a moment, he raised his hand and pressed it on Su Qinger's shoulder, and then activated the Imperial Battle Robe, activating his god power. He extracted all of the immortal power on the surface of her disguise technique. Immediately, Su Qinger's body released a large amount of light once again. Following that, his body changed, and in a moment, a young girl appeared in his line of sight. This young girl was also extremely outstanding. She had a delicate figure and a beautiful face. Although she could not compare to Su Qinger, she was still a pitiful beauty. "Who are you?" Su Yun asked. I was originally a disciple of the Peerless sect. Because I made a mistake, I was supposed to be executed by the elders of the sect, but the Ji Zun said that he wanted to choose a suitable person to disguise as Su Qinger, so I was captured by him to look like Su Qinger, the young girl said with a trembling voice. Hearing that, Su Yun secretly nodded his head. It seemed like what the round demon said was true. The Peerless sect had been defeated so quickly, and Qinger had been captured. It was indeed intentional by the people of the Peerless sect. Were they planning to use a fake Qinger to confuse the other party? Even so, this was not a long-term plan. Even though the fake Qi on Qinger's body was extremely weak, if anyone were to get close to her, it would not be difficult to discover them. This kind of disguise would not last long. Since he couldn't hold on for long, what was the Peerless sect planning to do? Could it be that Ao Wushuang was planning to enter the bodies of these immortals who were peeping at the bodies of the gods? Oh no, if that was the case, then wouldn't he have ruined Ao Wushuang's plan? Su Yun thought. He raised his head and looked left and right, his face gradually darkening. Forget it, things had already come to this, and there was no turning back. Since that was the case, he could only do it to the end. Ao Wushuang intentionally let you be captured? So this was all part of his plan? What mistake did you make? So much so that Ao Wushuang sent you here to die? Su Yun turned his head and asked the young girl. When the young girl heard this, her face turned pale with fright. She muttered, Send myself to death? Didn't the elders say? I won't die. I'm just making up for my mistakes. Since they want to obtain the body of the gods, they will refine you. How can you not die? Even if you are fake, the person who obtained you will definitely be angry when he finds out the truth and will erase you. Su Yun snorted. What exactly did you do? The young girl was so scared that she could barely stand. Her body swayed as if she was about to fall. After a while, she stammered. Forget it, it's useless to ask this now. Su Yun directly interrupted her. He could not be bothered with the young girl anymore. Since the people of the Peerless sect did not care about her life, he naturally did not care either. He left the young girl and raised his sword towards the immortals. Kill them all, show no mercy. Roars came out from the people in charge of the 4 great sections. Since they had already taken out all of their resources, if they did not kill all of these immortals, there would be a lot of trouble in the future. Chapter 1041. The Wind Slasher Hall Master saw the tragic situation around him, and his face turned extremely ugly. His eyes trembled and his body and mind were completely wrapped in fear. How could there be so many immortals? Where did these fellows come from? What was their goal? His heart was filled with doubts and hesitation. It was already difficult to solve them. However, everyone knew that if they stayed here at this time, only death awaited them. Hall Master, what should we do? There are too many of these fellows. I'm afraid they came prepared. Our Alliance army has been completely scattered by them. A high-ranking member of the Wind Slasher Hall rushed over and shouted. There was still blood on his body. It was unknown whether it was his blood or someone else's. Seeing this, the Wind Slasher Hall Master gritted his teeth and forced himself to calm down. The enemy suddenly attacked. I'm afraid they also came for the body of the god. We were too careless. The mantis stalks the cicada, unaware of the oriole behind. I'm afraid these fellows have already set their eyes on our Alliance army. When we seize the god's body, they will come to snatch it from us. Of the 36 stratagems, escape is the best. Now, everyone retreat. Wind Slasher Hall, retreat! The shouts lingered. Hearing this, the people of the Wind Slasher Hall hurriedly left the battle and gathered towards the Wind Slasher Hall Master. Seeing this, the Hall Master quickly turned around and rushed out. Since the Alliance army had already shown signs of defeat, there was no need to struggle anymore. Moreover, the Wind Slasher Hall had no obligation to fight for these people. If they could protect a point, they would earn a point. The people of the Wind Slasher Hall began to retreat. However, what was surprising was that none of the immortals who were fighting with the Alliance army intended to stop these fellows. They ignored them and continued to kill those who did not intend to escape. The people of the Wind Slasher Hall issued the order to retreat. The people of the other immortal sects naturally did not want to stay in this place of trouble. They all followed suit and shouted, preparing to retreat. Some took out their magic treasures, some urged their xianqi to retreat. In the blink of an eye, half of the Alliance army had given up resisting and chose to escape. But an unexpected scene appeared. Those people who planned to escape with the help of celestial artifacts and celestial arts were shocked to find that their celestial artifacts and celestial arts were useless at this moment. They raised their heads to look at the sky, and only then did they realize that the surroundings of this area had been set up with an isolation barrier. Not to mention the fact that celestial arts and celestial artifacts could not send people out, even messages could not be sent out. This place was completely isolated from the outside world. Charge! One of the immortals roared and charged toward the looser defense on the left. However, the immortals attacking the allied army didn't stop them. They continued to kill those who resisted. Such a scene caused Hall Master Slayer and the others to worry. Did the other party not want to fight for a long time? Whatever. This was not the time to consider such a problem. He took a deep breath and urged his chi. His figure rippled like a meteor, and in the blink of an eye, he was out of the center of the battlefield. The members of the Wind Slasher Hall followed closely behind, forming a long line. At this moment, everyone only wanted to escape and preserve their lives. Who would care about anything else? The Wind Slasher Hall Master ran the fastest. His eyes were fixed on his surroundings as he tightly gripped the immortal artifact in his hand. At this moment, he was already very far away from the main battlefield. Logically speaking, this place should already be safe. However, for some unknown reason, he could not help but feel an indescribable sense of nervousness welling up in his heart. As he got further and further away from the battlefield, this sense of nervousness grew stronger and stronger. He believed in his intuition. The other party was definitely not that simple. But before he could react, voila! The clouds in front of him suddenly dispersed. Following that, a dense rain of light beams madly shot towards him. The Wind Slasher Hall Master was stunned for a moment before he hastily used his magic treasure to dodge. Dong! 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 Countless light beams fiercely smashed into his protective magic treasure. The first-grade Imperial equipment treasure instantly shattered. The light beams directly pierced through his body. He was immediately injured and fell to the ground. On the other hand, the members of the Wind Slasher Hall who followed behind were not as lucky as him. The dense light beams directly pierced through their bodies. Their vitality could not compare to the powerful Hall Master, so their souls were directly pierced through. The members of the Wind Slasher Hall were like grains of sand as they fiercely fell to the ground. Fresh blood filled the air. Seeing this, the Wind Slasher Hall Master's face turned deathly pale. He hastily looked towards the sky and saw a large number of immortals appearing in the distant sky. They stood behind the clouds like a human wall, completely surrounding the area. There were so many of them that he could not even count them. Not only were there immortals, there were also a large number of huge immortal artifacts and even mechanical immortal beasts. The Wind Slasher Hall Master cried out. He was so frightened that he hastily crawled backwards. However, after crawling for a while, he stopped. Run? It was useless. However, looking at the other party's actions, it seemed that they did not intend to attack. They seemed to be guarding there. The mouths of those huge immortal artifacts were already aimed at him. Behind them, there was a seven-colored light flickering, like the color of a barrier. The immortals had solemn expressions on their faces as they stared fixedly at Hall Master Slayer. Although the previous wave of attacks had failed to kill Hall Master Slayer, the other party did not seem to have any intentions of attacking Hall Master Slayer and erasing him. They seemed to be guarding there, preventing anyone from escaping. Seeing this, the Wind Slasher Hall Master instantly understood everything. The other party was weaving a cage. A death cage. These people wanted to escape. They would not give chase because they knew that these people would not be able to escape. They only needed to kill those who were still resisting. This was because those who had run away no longer had the strength to fight. They could take advantage of this opportunity to kill off the Allied forces. Once those who resisted were completely slaughtered, it would be the turn of those who wanted to escape. With the people outside and the people inside working together, would those who wanted to escape have any chance of survival? Thinking of this, the Wind Slasher Hall Master's body trembled. Who were these people? Today would probably be his doomsday. Of course, it would also be the doomsday of many others. Damn it! I'll fight it out with you. At this moment, a mournful roar rang out from the battlefield. Following that, an immortal shone with golden light, holding a thick scroll in his hand. His entire body rose into the sky, intending to release some powerful immortal technique. The scroll emitted a terrifying immortal energy. Even though he was far away, the Wind Slasher Hall Master could feel the terrifying aura of destruction seeping out from the scroll. When people were forced into a corner, they would do anything. These immortals had been forced into a dead end. Naturally, they would not care about anything else. Whatever immortal technique they had, they would use it. Even if they did not seek a path of survival, they would not let their opponents have an easy time. As the immortal prepared his technique, several immortals with extraordinary cultivation rushed over and surrounded him, intending to protect him as he completed his immortal technique and prevent the enemy from harassing him. Suddenly, an extremely thick and enormous snow-white pillar of light shot over from afar, piercing through the immortals. Before they could even scream, they turned into smoke and disappeared. The immortals were shocked and looked towards the source of the pillar of light. Far in the distance, a group of immortals surrounded a gigantic dragon statue. This dragon statue was extremely lifelike and majestic. The dragon's eyes were wide open, making one's heart palpitate. The army-breaching immortal cannon. Someone recognized it and cried out in surprise. Huh? Horrified voices rose one after another. The enemy had actually brought out something as terrifying as the army-breaching immortal cannon. Were they really going to kill all these immortals? Those immortals were directly blasted into smithereens. When the army-breaching immortal cannon was used, it intimidated all the immortals here. Xingbai and the rest took advantage of the victory and chased after the remaining people. Although the immortal allied forces had hundreds of thousands of people, their hearts were not united. Furthermore, in the previous chaotic battle, many of them were injured and had formed conflicts. Furthermore, they were caught off guard by Su Yun's side. On one side, they were fleeing, while on the other side, they were fighting. At the end, their morale was completely destroyed, and they were at a complete disadvantage. On the other hand, on Su Yun's side, there were millions of people with great momentum. They were like a hot knife through butter, and wherever they went, not a single blade of grass was left behind. The corpses of the soldiers fell down like dumplings. The sudden change had already caused many people to be at a loss. In the midst of this series of shocks, finally, some people's mental defenses completely collapsed. They no longer dared to resist, and the sounds of surrender began to come out. Su Yun looked around. He knew that the battle was already under control, and the result was obvious. There was no suspense left. Xiang Yang. Su Yun, who had kept his sword, shouted. Xiang Yang, who was in the distance, immediately rushed over, cupped his fists and bowed. Master. The number of people is almost under control. Gather them together, seal their cultivation, and bring them away. It's not good to stay here for long. Leave as soon as possible to avoid unnecessary trouble. Yes. Xiang Yang replied, but after thinking for a moment, a look of hesitation surfaced on his face. Master, there are still more than 10,000 people here. I'm afraid it's not easy to control so many people. Since it's not easy to control, then kill some. Su Yun turned his head and stared at him coldly. What's more, we have 1,000,000 people, can't 100 people control a few people? Xiang Yang's entire body trembled. He immediately nodded and ran down. Those who wanted to escape were all killed by the Qin hidden dragon army that was blocking the perimeter. The encirclement began to close, and the allied forces also died one by one. The number of people began to decrease, and the battle gradually ended. In the end, no one resisted. The young lady who was pretending to be Su Qing stared blankly at all of this. Looking at the countless immortals, she tried her best to size up each and every one of them, but she really did not know who these people were, which immortal sect they came from, or which power they came from. The immortals had already begun to clean up the battlefield. They took away everything that could be used on the bodies of the dead immortals, and at the same time, erased all traces of their identities that could be exposed. The number of people was too large, so they could only roughly clean up the place. Of course, in this chaotic place, even if some evidence was left behind, it would not matter. After all, in such a chaotic place, anything could happen. Master, what should we do with this woman? It was at this moment that Xiang Yang suddenly pointed at the young girl and yelled. As the sound of his voice faded, the young girl was so scared that she almost fell from the sky. She curled up her body like a frightened rabbit and began to tremble. The ground was littered with broken corpses, and the air was filled with the souls of dead immortals. This place was like purgatory, and over there was the creator of purgatory. Chapter 1042. Swoosh, 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 swoosh. A large number of air-piercing sounds came from afar, followed by the shadows of countless immortals. These immortals were dressed in the same uniform and were fully equipped with immortal weapons. They looked like they were ready for battle. However, at this moment, everyone's face was filled with seriousness. They were the people from the Peerless sect who had rushed over from the Peerless sect. As they approached, the people from the Peerless sect stopped. They scanned their surroundings vigilantly and sniffed. The air was filled with a strong smell of blood. Ao Wushuang felt that something was wrong. He immediately raised his hand and signaled everyone to stop. They stood still, not daring to move forward. Among the crowd, a few disciples who were responsible for scouting flew out and scattered in all directions. The signal seems to have been cut off here. Elder Qing moved closer to Ao Wushuang and said, "This place is filled with the smell of blood. I think the place we are looking for should be up ahead. Tell everyone to be more careful. If there is any movement, immediately gather your defense. Don't go alone. If you meet a powerful Almighty, don't activate your immortal qi. The Almighty can tell with a glance who has activated their immortal qi and who hasn't. If they detect that we have activated our immortal qi, they will definitely think that we are resisting. If they get angry, then we will be in trouble." Ao Wushuang said in a low voice. "It's most likely that the Almighty won't. This old man thinks that those random sects must have fought over the god's body. Perhaps in the chaos of the war, our informant unfortunately died, and that's why we lost contact." Elder Qing laughed. However, Ao Wushuang's face did not look relaxed. He stared ahead for a while and said in a low voice, "I hope it is as you said." The group of people were still waiting quietly. A light breeze blew, and the pungent smell of blood became even stronger. "Sovereign! Sovereign!" At this moment, a shrill cry came from the clouds. The people from the Peerless sect, who were still waiting for the news, were already nervous. Hearing this cry, they almost jumped up. Behind the clouds, a person from the Peerless sect rushed out. This person was the disciple who was sent out earlier. "What's going on?" Ao Wushuang flew over quickly and shouted in a deep voice. The disciple lost his balance and almost fell down. Ao Wushuang immediately caught his body, and he finally regained his composure. However, when he looked up, he saw a pale face without a trace of blood and a pair of terrified eyes. What did he see? How could he be so afraid? Supreme Martial Artist! Supreme Martial Artist! Over there! Over there! The disciple's voice was trembling and his tongue was tied. He couldn't speak clearly and could only point at the clouds with a trembling finger. He didn't know what to say. Upon seeing this, Ao Wushuang frowned and directly rushed toward the cloud and missed over there. Elder Qing and the others hurried to keep up. The clouds were a vast expanse of whiteness, but it couldn't block the immortal's vision. However, as soon as they entered the clouds, they discovered that the insides of the clouds were blood red. The clouds were dyed red by the blood mist. This shocked many people. Ao Wushuang felt that something was wrong. He sped up and broke through the clouds. But what happened next left him dumbfounded. Elder Qing and the others also rushed out of the clouds. Almost at the same time, everyone seemed to be petrified. They stood rooted to the ground, motionless, and even their breathing seemed to have stopped. Below was a naturally formed vast land of clouds, but on this land of clouds was a black mass of immortal corpses. These corpses were scattered all over the place. Some of their bodies were intact, while others were broken and incomplete. The entire land of clouds had been dyed red with blood, and the minced flesh and broken bones were floating in this river of blood. There were no vengeful spirits in the air. Everything here was as silent as death. Only the wind blew slowly across the sky, bringing with it the nauseating smell of blood, drifting far away. These people from the Peerless sect felt that their eyeballs were about to pop out of their sockets. They had entered the immortal realm and cultivated for so many years, but they had never seen such a scene. This was simply a land of corpses. Perhaps even the purgatory under the 9 underworlds would not be so terrifying, right? After an unknown period of time, go quickly. Ao Wushuang came back to his senses. He took a deep breath and shouted at Elder Qing, go and see if there are any survivors? Elder Qing was startled by this. He immediately turned around and shouted, "Both of you, go and see if there are any survivors." "Yes, yes, Elder." The two disciples trembled and hurriedly lowered their heads. They took out a round mirror and shot out a green light that shone on the corpses on the ground. The corpses were illuminated by the green light, and it was extremely terrifying. However, after a few rounds, no one was alive. These people were all killed, not even their souls were left behind. Preliminary estimates. There should be more than 200,000 people here. Elder Qing looked around and retracted his gaze with difficulty. He said in a deep voice, "Most of the people who attacked my peerless sect died here." "Most of them died here?" Ao Wushuang stared at the corpses below. Although he tried his best to remain calm, the shock in his eyes could not be concealed. Did they meet a peerless almighty? A almighty who can kill hundreds of thousands of immortals with a flip of his hand. Taking the body of a god would have no effect. Then, how did they die? Are you telling me that they killed each other, and in such a short period of time, only tens of thousands of people escaped with the body of a god? Would you believe that? Ao Wushuang turned his head and stared at Elder Qing. This unknown horror had already made him a little panicked. Hearing this, Elder Qing quickly cupped his fist. "Sovereign, don't be anxious. This is just a guess. Guess? How else do you want to guess?" Ao Wushuang snorted and thought deeply for a moment. His eyes were fixed on the corpses. "Once news of what happened here gets out, I'm afraid that not only the immortal world, but all the other worlds will be shocked. The people of the immortal court will definitely come out in full force to investigate this matter. How can we not investigate? So many immortals have died, and such a thing has never happened in recent years. If the immortal court remains indifferent, the people of the immortal world will definitely doubt the ability and sense of responsibility of the immortal court, and their position will be shaken. So no matter what, the immortal court will definitely take action this time. But what exactly caused all these immortals to die in such a short period of time? No matter who it is, they are definitely not ordinary people. In the immortal world, there are not many people who have such means. If it was those few, I should have received the news a long time ago. News? If those few wanted to come and did not let you know, you would never have noticed them. This, Sovereign." At this moment, the two disciples who were in charge of checking the survivors flew over. "Are there any survivors?" Ao Wushuang asked in a low voice. The two disciples heard this and lowered their heads in unison. "Reporting to Sovereign. No one is alive, even the senior brothers and sisters of the peerless sect were killed." Ao Wushuang clenched his fists. "Sovereign, disciple has discovered that many of these immortals died to different technique. It doesn't seem like it was done by a single person. If disciple is not wrong, these people must have been ambushed by other immortals. That's why they died." Attacked by other immortals, Ao Wushuang raised his head and stared at the disciple. He asked seriously, "Let me ask you, if you want to quietly eliminate nearly 300,000 immortals in a few days, how many immortals do you think would be suitable?" This. The disciple hesitated and thought for a moment, then lowered his head and said, "At least 3 times the power. About 1,000,000 immortals. About 1,000,000? Ao Wushuang snorted. "That's only the premise. Not only do they have to be close to 1,000,000, but they also have to be strong enough to meet the standards of immortals. But look at the entire immortal world, which sect has more than 1,000,000 disciples? Even if there were several immortal sects, they would not be able to reach this number without going all out. But which immortal sect would dare to empty their sects and go all out for this matter?" Everyone felt that Ao Wushuang's question was reasonable. How could there be 1,000,000 immortals so easily? Since this assumption was not valid, then what was the truth of the matter? These people don't seem to have died in the hands of destructive immortal art. I'm afraid we won't be able to find out for a while. In that case, it's better to leave this matter to the immortal world. Ao Wushuang said. Our previous plan has been completely disrupted after this incident. Sovereign, what should we do now? Elder Qing asked. Although the plan has been disrupted, it's developing in a good direction. All the immortals here have been slaughtered, and the immortal sects that formed an alliance to covet the immortal spirit's body will be greatly weakened. If they still want to do anything to us, I'm afraid they won't be able to. Our peerless sect can temporarily be at peace. The people of the immortal court are not ordinary people. If we continue to investigate, they will definitely be found. Just dealing with the immortal court is enough for them. What do we have to worry about? Ao Wushuang's frown finally eased a little. Perhaps this result was a little consolation for him. He turned around, waved his hand, and said indifferently, "Continue to send people to investigate here. The rest of you, follow me back." "Yes, Sovereign." "Oh, by the way, Elder Qing, you're in charge of setting up a special team to investigate the reason for the destruction of these immortals. In any case, we must know how they died." After Ao Wushuang finished speaking, he turned around and left. His departing figure seemed especially heavy. Chapter 1043. After the battle ended, Su Yun led the people of the four sects and immediately retreated. Because the number of people was too large, he specially allowed the people of Carefree Palace and Hidden Dragon Hall to leave temporarily, while he himself followed a portion of the elites of the Immortal Seeking sect and headed towards the Great Ling Long Palace with Wei Ming. The few thousand Alliance people who were captured were also brought into the Great Ling Long Palace. The Great Ling Long Palace was a powerful sect. Compared to the Hidden Dragon Hall and Carefree Palace, it had its own unique advantages. Especially in terms of the facilities within the sect, it was not something that the Hidden Dragon Hall and Carefree Palace could compare to. As for the Immortal Seeking sect, there was no need to talk about it. A few thousand people were locked up in the Great Ling Long Palace's prison. Their space bag and immortal equipment were all taken away, their cultivations were sealed, and there were experts monitoring them day and night. Although the Great Ling Long Palace's prison was not big, it was just enough to fit these few thousand people. After knowing that Wei Ming had locked everyone up, Su Yun immediately asked Wei Ming to take care of the confession. These few thousand people came from the various sects that peeped at the god's body, and the things in their mouths were extremely valuable. It was not easy for cultivators to cultivate, and it was even more difficult for them to ascend to the immortal stage. These immortals had all suffered a lot to reach their current cultivation, and no one was willing to die so easily. Thus, it was not difficult to get information from them. Furthermore, Su Yun still had the Great Ling Long technique, so even if they wanted to hide it, it was impossible. 3 days later, Wei Ming personally came to the main hall of the Great Ling Long Palace and reported to Su Yun about the Allied forces. It turned out that the Allied forces that peeped at the god's body was formed by 37 immortal sections. The reason why these allied sects would cooperate was naturally for the god's body. However, what was surprising was that the leader of the allied forces was not from the Road of Immortals, nor was it from the Thousand Beyond Heavens, but the Jingyu Emperor Palace, which was even more powerful than the Road of Immortals and the Thousand Beyond Heavens. It was personally organized by sect leader Lin Yujing, and all the people that joined the alliance were under Lin Yujing's orders. It was not that Su Yun had never heard of the Jingyu Emperor Palace, but he did not know much about it. He only knew that it was a sect that was even stronger than the Peerless sect. Actually, logically speaking, even if the Jingyu Emperor Palace fought against the Peerless sect alone, it would be enough for the Peerless sect to suffer. Why did they form an allied force and make such a big move? Su Yun thought for a while, then asked, "Did you take down the people from the Jingyu Emperor Palace?" This. Wei Ming hesitated for a moment before shaking his head. The members of the Feather Imperial Hall did not participate this time. Didn't participate. Su Yun frowned. Lin Yujing did not send anyone from Jingyu Imperial Palace to participate in this matter. This subordinate believes that the people from the celestial sects will be very happy. After all, Jingyu Imperial Palace is very powerful, and the people they sent must be experts among experts. If they sent people, even if they obtain the body of a god, it will probably fall into Jingyu Imperial Palace's hands. Wei Ming said. Since the Jingyu Emperor Palace is powerful, if they really make a move, I'm afraid that the people from the immortal sects will be on guard against them. When the time comes to carry out the plan, these immortals will not be able to calm down and will most likely fail the mission. So, if I were Lin Yujing, I would not send anyone to participate in this mission. Su Yun said. Could it be that Lin Yujing is going to give up her divine body? Wei Ming was stunned. Of course not. Su Yun's face became gloomy, his eyes were filled with seriousness. If I'm not wrong, Lin Yujing should have sent an expert to ambush us on the way back to the Alliance Army's encampment from the Peerless sect, waiting for the opportunity to snatch it. Ambush halfway? That's not a bad choice. Unfortunately, they won't be able to wait for the divine body. Let alone the fact that this body is fake. Even if it was real, it wouldn't be their turn to get their hands on it. That's not what I'm thinking about, but another more serious problem. Su Yun sighed and said, if Jingyu Imperial Palace really plans to seize the divine body along the way, then they must be monitoring the people from these sections. Since we have slaughtered these people, I'm afraid Jingyu Imperial Palace has already noticed us. But this subordinate has already investigated, and all the spies in our vicinity have been eliminated. Even if the people from Jingyu Imperial Palace really did send spies to monitor these people, they would have definitely been killed by us. If they use magic treasure to monitor us, we have already prepared a shielding strategy. Although the strength of the Great Linglong Palace is not as strong as that of the Jingyu Imperial Palace, the immortal equipment is still not bad. It will not be easy for the Jingyu Imperial Palace to break through the isolation of our immortal equipment and monitor the movements inside. Hearing that, Su Yun thought for a moment, then said, since that's the case, then right now, the Jingyu Imperial Palace sent their spies to monitor us, but they were all cleaned up by our people, and their monitoring magic treasure might also be isolated by us, but no matter what, the Jingyu Imperial Palace at least knows of the existence of a special immortal sect like us, an existence that can eliminate hundreds of thousands of immortals. They will definitely take it seriously. They don't know who we are, so what's there to be afraid of? We are in the dark, they are in the light, there is no need to worry. Wei Ming laughed. Hearing that, Su Yun glared at him, causing Wei Ming to jump in fright. Your way of thinking is very dangerous. No matter what the situation is, since the two sides are facing each other, it doesn't matter if they are in the open or in the dark. Even if they have already obtained a huge advantage, they must still take it seriously, understand? Su Yun said. Hearing that, Wei Ming cupped his fists. Yes, this subordinate understands. Su Yun nodded his head and said indifferently, we will discuss the matters of Jingyu Imperial Palace later. First tell me everything you want to know. Yes. Wei Ming did not dare waste any time, and immediately said, this time, this subordinate has also asked about an even more shocking news. This news is related to the gate to the immortal realm. Gate to the immortal realm? Su Yun was startled. Could it be that it's the myriad realms that suddenly barged in? Yes. Wei Ming nodded his head and said, according to a few of the higher-ups of the immortal sects who understand this matter, the chaos at the gate to the immortal realm was completely planned by Lin Yujing. His goal is to cause chaos in the immortal realm, disperse the power of the immortal court, and then make a move on the Peerless sect. With the strength of the Peerless sect, they are not a match for the Alliance army, but the Peerless sect is able to rely on the immortal court, which is a problem, so Lin Yujing carried out this plan. That's all? Su Yun squinted his eyes. If it's just for the body of a god, it doesn't seem to be worth it, right? Obtaining the body of a god will allow me to step into the peak spirit god realm, or even an even higher unknown realm. How is it not worth it? Even so, you must know that Lin Yujing is not the only one in this operation, and this god's body might not necessarily fall into his hands, so he has spent so much effort to do so many things, and to him, he should more or less suffer a loss. Although I have never seen Lin Yujing before, I have heard from others that he is good at calculating, and is a person who never suffers losses, so it is most likely impossible for him to make such a huge sacrifice. So it's like that, this subordinate really doesn't know. Wei Ming shook his head. There are no people from the Jingyu Imperial Palace among these captives, and the things they know are limited. This subordinate obtained this information through the great exquisite technique, so they can't hide anything. Send some experts to keep an eye on the situation at the Jingyu Imperial Palace. Since this big head has surfaced, we can't pretend not to see it. We have to pay attention to their movements at all times, and if there are any movements, we have to report to me immediately. Su Yun said. Yes. Wei Ming cupped his fists and bowed, but he did not continue. Su Yun had originally planned to close his eyes to cultivate, but seeing that Wei Ming was still there, he immediately asked, Master Wei, is there anything else? Oh, it's like this, Master. This subordinate has another piece of news. It's just that this piece of news seems to be very big, but it's not important to us. This subordinate doesn't know if I should report it to you. Who did you get the news from? It was from the woman who impersonated the body of a god. Wei Ming said. The woman who impersonated the body of a god? Su Yun thought for a while, and immediately remembered who Wei Ming was talking about. That woman seemed to have been completely abandoned by the Peerless sect. According to her, she had committed a mistake and was supposed to be executed by the Peerless sect, but the Peerless sect gave her a chance to make up for it. Although she said that she was making up for it, in Su Yun's eyes or the eyes of the people from the Peerless sect, it was no different from courting death. He retracted his thoughts and looked at Wei Ming. Tell me about it. Yes, Master. Wei Ming paused for a moment, then said, Master, according to this subordinate's investigation, that woman is called Zijin, and is an immortal who joined the Peerless sect 300 years ago. She originally followed a supreme expert to cultivate, but because the supreme expert fell in battle with his enemies, she escaped and entered the Peerless sect. Zijin's cultivation was not bad, and her talent was also very good, but her temperament was extremely weak, and the supreme expert from before, in order to help her quickly increase her strength, and in the future, he used a lot of equipment and celestial coins on her, causing her mental state to be unable to keep up with her strength. After entering the Peerless sect, her mental state was still not able to keep up, and on the contrary, her strong cultivation allowed her to win a lot of status in the Peerless sect, but because of this, she was also targeted by some of the enemies of the Peerless sect. She was once used by 8 immortal sects within 3 months, not only causing the Peerless sect to suffer heavy losses, but also causing the Peerless sect's higher-ups, Elder Qing's only son, to lose his life, and his son's soul was refined by the enemy. Elder Qing was furious and wanted to kill Zijin, but was still stopped by Ao Wushuang. Ao Wushuang thought that there should be rules in everything, and Zijin knew too many secrets about the Peerless sect, but she could not keep her mouth shut. Adding on to the fact that she had committed so many mistakes, she could only choose to be executed, and thus she was temporarily imprisoned, and chose a day to behead as a warning to others. Who would have thought that such a thing would happen? The impersonator of the divine body would definitely not be able to keep her life, and while the people of the Peerless sect were hesitating, someone suggested to let Zijin replace her, and that was what happened next. Hearing that, Su Yun was shocked. He never thought that this woman would be so complicated. Chapter 1044. Zijin hasn't been in the Peerless sect for a long time, right? And her state of mind is not good. Although she is strong, it is not easy for her to infiltrate the Peerless sect. How did she know so many secrets of the Peerless sect? Su Yun could not help but voice out his suspicions. Ao Wushuang was not an idiot. A disciple who had only been in the sect for 300 years was not considered long in the sect. How could such a person know so many secrets of the Peerless sect? She purposely found out. Wei Ming said. Purposely? Yes, purposely. She was the one who secretly obtained these secrets. Although Zijin's state of mind is not strong, she still has her methods. She relied on her cultivation to become an elite disciple in the Peerless sect. Later on, she was bewitched by others and started to steal the sect's secrets. That is why she was convicted. What secrets are they? The location of the various mechanisms in the Peerless sect and the method to break them. All the top-grade immortal equipment that the Peerless sect has yet to reveal to others are all secrets that are targeted at the Peerless sect. Is that so? Su Yun rubbed his chin and thought for a while, then asked, Then do you know who used Zijin? The person who used her obviously knew that she could not keep the secret, so she purposely hid her identity. Rather than saying that her state of mind is not good enough, it is more accurate to say that she is too naive. Bring Zijin here, I want to see this person. To be able to dig out some of the Peerless sect's secrets from Ao Wushuang, no matter what, this woman has some ability. Wei Ming heard and nodded, then turned and left. After a while, Wei Ming brought in a young lady wearing fluorescent handcuff. The young lady's face was pale and her body was trembling. Her hair was disheveled and her eyes were filled with fear. When she saw Su Yun sitting in the main hall, she was so scared that she fell on her butt. Her legs were so weak that she could not stand up straight. Su Yun stared into her eyes and realized that her fear was not feigned, but she was truly afraid of him. You are called Zijin, right? Su Yun asked. Hearing that, the young lady almost fell to the ground. She raised her pretty face and asked in fear, How? How do you know my name? Not only do I know your name, I also know that you were tricked by the Peerless sect's enemies, and revealed many of our secrets, causing the Peerless sect to want to execute you. Su Yun smiled. With that said, the young girl was no longer afraid, but filled with fear and shock. Her trembling body leaned backwards, her weak hands and feet wanted to move backwards, as though she wanted to stay away from Su Yun, but she was powerless. You? How do you know? Who are you? Who are you? She was tongue-tied. You don't need to know who I am. All you need to know is that if I wanted to kill you, it would be a piece of cake. Don't kill me. Please don't kill me. Don't kill me. The young lady crawled on the ground and begged Su Yun, her voice filled with nervousness. Why didn't I kill you? Why should I keep you? Su Yun said indifferently. The girl panicked and didn't know what to say. Su Yun glanced at the young lady, feeling helpless in his heart. From what he saw, it was not that the girl's mental state was not mature enough, but she was completely stupid. He sighed and said, I only keep useful people here. If you are useless, there is no reason for you to exist in this world. Me! I am useful. I have a great use. The young lady seemed to have been enlightened by Su Yun, and immediately shouted. What use do you have? Ugh! This, how did you steal the secrets from the Peerless sect? This. The young lady scratched her head, looking like she was thinking hard. After a long while, she said with difficulty and distress, Master instructed me to not mention the divine art of transformation to anyone else. You relied on the divine art of transformation to steal the secrets of the Peerless sect? You! How do you know about the divine art of transformation? The young lady's eyes widened in fear. This. Wei Ming, who was at the side, did not know what to say about the girl. Describing her as stupid was probably a compliment. What kind of immortal technique is the divine art of transformation? Su Yun asked again. I can't say. At this moment, the young lady was tight-lipped, pursing her lips. What if I force you to say it? Su Yun's voice gradually deepened, looking extremely scary. The young lady trembled even more, her eyes swayed, and after a long while, she said while trembling, If you promise not to kill me, I will tell you about the divine art of transformation, okay? Alright. Su Yun agreed. If he could not deal with this girl, then he would have lived all these years in vain. Hearing that, the young lady's anxious expression immediately relaxed. She heaved a sigh of relief, and looked at Su Yun carefully. You have to keep your word. I said I won't kill you, so I won't kill you. A gentleman's word is as good as a whip. That's good. The young lady caressed her swollen chest, wanting to stand up, but her fair legs were still weak, so she gave up and sat on the ground to talk to Su Yun. Actually, my master is the famous True Lord Xuanxiang. True Lord Xuanxiang? I've never heard of him. Wei Ming, have you heard of him? No. You guys. The young lady was slightly annoyed, but this annoyance was fleeting. After all, her current situation did not allow her to be angry, so she could only continue speaking in a low voice. The divine art of transformation is a rather different kind of immortal technique. It is not like ordinary immortal techniques. It is mainly focused on killing power. Its main ability is to completely transform everything. What is transformation? Transformation of attributes. Transformation of attributes, for example, earth attribute substances are extremely hard. I can use the divine art of transformation to easily transform it into water attribute substances, making it extremely soft. I have fire attribute substances. I can also transform them into earth attribute, fire attribute substances, and so on. I used this immortal technique to successfully enter the Peerless Sex Scripture Summoning Pavilion, and obtained the secrets of the Peerless Sex Array Seal. There's actually such a mystical, immortal technique. Su Yun was extremely moved and sighed. The 10,000 worlds, even the immortal realm, is truly all-encompassing, truly amazing. Such a mystical, immortal technique, only my master can obtain it. Then, how did the enemies of the Peerless Sect threaten you, to make you serve them obediently? Su Yun asked. Threaten? The young lady shook her head. It's not a threat, it's a cooperation. They said they can help me, to revive my master, that's why I did it. Revive your master? Is your master's soul still around? Soul. The young lady's expression turned gloomy, her eyes drooped, her expression downcast. Master's soul has long been destroyed by his enemies. Since his soul has been destroyed, how can he be revived? Su Yun asked. His soul has been destroyed, but this does not mean that he has truly died. When a person's soul is destroyed, it will only dissipate into the air. There is still a chance for it to reform. There are countless mystical techniques in the 10,000 worlds. Who knows how many there are? Master, don't you also not know that I am proficient in such a mystical technique like the divine art of transformation? The young lady's face suddenly became solemn. Her expression was extremely serious as she said to Su Yun. Seeing the young lady's expression, Su Yun was slightly startled. It was rather strange. He did not know that the young lady would actually reveal such an expression. Wasn't this girl timid and incomparably weak? No. If that was the case, how would she dare to betray the Peerless Sect, and leak the Peerless Sect's secrets to the Peerless Sect's enemies? In the end, she was still doing it for her master. Is your master very good to you? Su Yun asked. The young lady was stunned for a moment, then nodded her head. If not for master, there would be no me. I am actually just an ordinary girl from the mortal world. Master traveled the mortal world, saw me abandoned by my parents, picked me up, raised me, and taught me immortal techniques, allowing me to obtain immortality. Everything I have was given to me by my benefactor. How many people go through all sorts of trouble just to become an immortal? But since young, I was able to obtain the immortal's inheritance, and was able to enjoy the benefits of an immortal. If not for master, how could I be who I am today? Therefore, to me, my masters are my parents. Let me ask you, who wouldn't do anything for their parents, not to mention betraying the peerless sect, even if I have to betray the entire 10,000 worlds, as long as it is for master, I am willing. At this moment, the young lady actually threw away all her fear, mustered up all her courage, and said these words. Su Yun was stunned. He stared blankly at the young lady, his face full of shock. After a long time, he then stood up and nodded his head seriously. You did the right thing. He simply said these words, even though these words were directed at him. Actually, if it was him, he would also do the same. He did not need to be responsible for the whole world, but he had to be responsible for his own parents. This was not a matter of conscience, but a matter of bottom line, as the most basic thing a person should do. Although I failed, and the peerless sect wants to kill me, but I do not regret it. If you want to kill me, The young lady's voice started to tremble again, her entire body started to tremble, as though she was afraid again. Finally, the young lady still shouted, but with her eyes closed, as though she mustered up all her courage to shout. I still don't want to die. Su Yun was stunned. He did not know what to say. In the end, she still did not want to die. Alright, let's not talk about anything else. Su Yun shook his head and said indifferently, Now, I will give you a chance to live. Do you want it? Yes, I want it. The young lady did not hesitate. Immediately, like a chick pecking rice, she nodded her head continuously. I want it. I want it. Chapter 1045. Her reaction was so intense. How afraid of death was she? Su Yun was startled. He took a deep breath and thought for a while. Then, he said, I want you to work for me. Sure, I'm willing to work for you, Master, as long as you don't kill me. The young lady quickly said. But I'm afraid that you'll betray me like how you betrayed Peerless Sect. If that's the case, it would be terrible for me, Su Yun said. The young lady was stunned for a while. Then, she said softly, I won't betray Master. Master, don't worry. Since that's the case, eat this. Su Yun took out a pill from somewhere and handed it over. The young girl curiously looked at the elixir. She tilted her neck and looked at it for a while. Soon after, she carefully extended her fair and delicate little hand, picked up the elixir, and put it into her mouth. She licked it with her pink tongue and felt that it tasted pretty good. She swallowed it in one go. So sweet. It tastes so good. What's this? The young lady licked her lips and asked Su Yun. Everyone says that good medicine tastes bitter. This sweet thing is naturally poison, Su Yun said. With that, the young lady's smile disappeared. Her face that had just regained some color turned pale again. Her body that stopped trembling started trembling again. Her entire body went limp again. Her dry lips trembled as she muttered something. Poison. 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 Am I going to die? Am I going to die? What do I do? What do I do? What do I do? What do I do? She hugged her head and shouted in a daze. She was like a frightened kitten. Su Yun could not help but laugh. He said, This poison won't kill you. The young lady trembled. Really? Temporarily. I can give you the antidote. Really? The young lady became spirited again. That depends on your performance. His spirit, which had just risen, wilted again. If you perform well, not only will I give you the antidote, I will also think of a way to revive your master. Really? The girl was a little skeptical this time. Of course it's true this time, Su Yun said calmly. Hearing that, the young lady's doubts disappeared. Instead, she was filled with excitement. She clapped her hands and said excitedly, That's great. That was great. You're so strong, Master can definitely be saved. There's definitely hope. It's up to you to save your master. If you work for me sincerely, not only can I guarantee your safety, I can also guarantee that your master will be able to stand in front of you alive. Su Yun said indifferently. I will arrange for you to enter the immortal seeking sect. At that time, you will directly listen to my orders. I want you to help me gather some information about some immortal sects. You should be able to do it, right? If you want me to scout for information, then I'm afraid I can't do it, the girl said weakly. Go ahead and steal it. No problem. The young girl said confidently, I have trained so hard in the divine art of transformation for so many years, but it was not a waste. In front of my divine art of transformation, any barrier is useless. That's good. Su Yun nodded his head, then said to Wei Ming, There are a lot of things to do today, so let's do this for now. Bring her down, and send her back to the immortal seeking sect later. Yes, master. Wei Ming cupped his fists, nodded towards the young lady, and left. Seeing that, the young lady immediately followed behind Wei Ming and ran away. She was afraid of Su Yun. After all, the scene of him massacring all the immortals was still fresh in her mind, and she had never forgotten it. Zijin was a timid person. When had she ever seen someone as ferocious as Su Yun? Although she had replaced Su Qing'er as the divine spirit body and became the bait for the Peerless sect, attracting the attack of the Alliance army of the immortal sects, she did not know Ao Wushuang's intentions at all. Otherwise, she would have rather died on the spot than become the bait. After the young lady left, Su Yun waited in the main hall. After about half an incense stick of time, Wei Ming, who had left earlier, returned to the main hall. Master, she has already been properly arranged. Wei Ming cupped his fists and said, Yes. Su Yun nodded his head and said, After you return to the immortal seeking sect, tell Xiang Yang to have people monitor this girl day and night. Master is afraid that she will betray you? Wei Ming was startled. That's not it. Su Yun sighed and said, Although this girl has some ability, she is timid and afraid of death. After knowing that I fed her poison, she will definitely not betray me. It's just that her brain doesn't seem to be too bright. If someone were to trick her, then it would be different. She doesn't seem to be on guard against anyone. That's true. Wei Ming also agreed. For a girl like her to be able to survive in such a dangerous place like the immortal world, he truly admired her luck. In addition, from today onwards, prepare resources for me, and select all the experts in the Great Ling Long Palace who are at the third stage of the Spirit Profound Immortal Realm and reorganize them. Su Yun said indifferently. Hearing that, Wei Ming's pupils dilated a few times. He looked at Su Yun and said in shock, Master, you want to, although the people we captured don't know much about this immortal sect alliance, they know a lot about the immortal sects that formed this alliance. Do you know what the first thing to do to break a group should be? Su Yun asked. Hearing that, Wei Ming was stunned and said, Break them one by one? Yes. Su Yun nodded his head. This is like a pair of chopsticks. It is very difficult for you to break them in one breath, and we do not have the strength to do so right now, so we need to break them one by one. Of course, in the process of breaking them, we can also train our own strength and increase our own strength. Wei Ming was not an idiot. With Su Yun's words, he immediately understood, and immediately cupped his fists. This subordinate knows what to do. There are many higher-ups of the various sects among the people we captured, and through the great exquisite technique, we have obtained many secrets of the immortal sects. Now that we have the initiative, it will be much more convenient for us to do anything. Right now, they do not know that we have this information in our hands, so we must take advantage of this time to organize. Su Yun said. The main reason why he wanted to make a move on these immortal sects was because these sects had attacked the Peerless sect, and had designs on Su Qing'er. Now that Su Yun had killed hundreds of thousands of immortals outside the Peerless sect, all of these sects were in a state of emptiness, and it was the best time to take care of them. Wei Ming went to make the arrangements, and Su Yun immediately informed Xiang Yang, Qin Qianlong and Xing Bai. Time waits for no man. If he did not destroy this alliance at this time, Su Yun would have many more days to worry about in the future. More than 300,000 immortals had been annihilated. Although many people wanted to hide this news, in the end, someone still leaked it out. In an instant, the entire immortal world was shocked, and countless immortal sects paid attention to it. Especially the immortal court, when they rushed to the battlefield. On the same day, they issued a lockdown order. The entire battlefield was completely sealed, and no immortals were allowed to enter. Even the people from the Peerless sect were not allowed to enter. The death of hundreds of thousands of immortals, if not for the large-scale conflict, it would definitely not have caused such a scene. There was only one conflict that people knew of, and that was the conflict between these immortals and the Peerless sect. Everyone knew that in this battle, the Peerless sect was continuously retreating, and Ao Wushuang was even injured. After the chaos in the Peerless sect, they received the attention of many, and Ao Wushuang could not hide anything even if he wanted to. However, when the people from the Immortal Court went to the Peerless sect, they could not avoid Ao Wushuang's act. Ao Wushuang did not want to tell the people from the Immortal Court about his plan. Therefore, when the people from the Immortal Court arrived, Ao Wushuang focused on the identity of the people who attacked the Peerless sect, and strongly requested the people from the Immortal Court to investigate. Naturally, the people from the Immortal Court knew about this. Fortunately, there were too many corpses on the battlefield, and too many clues were left behind. It was not difficult for them to find out which immortal sects were involved in the attack on the Peerless sect. However, the people who paid attention to this matter were not only the Peerless sect and the Immortal Court, but also the alliance of immortal sects led by Lin Yujing. At this moment, in the encampment of the alliance, Lin Yujing sat gloomily at the front of the meeting hall, staring coldly at every immortal who walked in. Among these immortals who walked in, their faces were pale, and they looked anxious. They either sat down or stood at the side, but no one said a word. Very soon, the meeting hall was filled with chairs. Lin Yujing, who was sitting at the head of the table, stood up and looked at everyone with a cold gaze. What the hell is going on? Finally, Lin Yujing spoke. A murderous look appeared on his handsome face. No one said a word. Don't tell me you still don't know what's going on? Lin Yujing spoke again. His voice was filled with uncontrollable anger. Could it be, until now, no one can tell me who killed hundreds of thousands of our disciples? Huh? Say something. However, despite Lin Yujing's questioning, no one said a word. This matter was too sudden, too unexpected. Even though these people had thought of countless possibilities before they took action, no one expected such a thing to happen. The atmosphere in the meeting hall was very tense. Lin Yujing seemed to want to say something, but at this moment, an immortal on the right suddenly spoke. Sect leader Lin, do you know? When were our hundreds of thousands of disciples killed? The one who spoke was the pavilion master of Xiling Pavilion, a medium-sized immortal sect. The sect was not considered strong, but it was very experienced. Pavilion Master Shi, what do you mean? Lin Yujing snorted. I don't mean anything else. Xiling Pavilion Master said indifferently. I just want to tell sect leader Lin that after obtaining the body of a god, our hundreds of thousands of disciples were killed on the way back to the Alliance. As soon as he finished speaking, everyone present raised their heads and looked at Xiling Pavilion Master. What did he mean? He believed that everyone present knew. Chapter 1046. The meeting hall was abnormally quiet, and there were only two people speaking. Lin Yujing stared at Xiling Pavilion Master, his sword-like eyes gradually turning cold. But Xiling Pavilion Master was not afraid at all, and continued to speak. We have been preparing for this operation for a long time, and have sent out our best disciples. Dozens of sects have gathered more than 300,000 elite troops, and with the help of the spies we planted in Peerless sect, The enchantment of peerless sect has already been broken by us. This army of hundreds of thousands of people to attack peerless sect, which has no external help and no defense system, is simply too easy. Obtaining the body of the god is also not a surprise. But why were these hundreds of thousands of people unable to protect a god's body, and it was snatched away on the way? How did the person who massacred hundreds of thousands of our disciples know our return route? Why did they attack right after we took over the god's body? Sect leader Lin, don't you think that all of this is very coincidental and very surprising? As soon as he said this, everyone's heart was filled with shock. Lin Yujing's face was already abnormally gloomy. He stared at Shi Ling Pavilion Master and said solemnly, "What does Shi Ling Pavilion Master want to say? Just say it." "I just want to say one thing," Shi Ling Pavilion Master said indifferently. Jingyu Emperor Palace did not participate in this operation and did not even send out a single disciple. Then may I ask sect leader Lin, when we seized the god's body and prepared to return to the alliance, your Jingyu Emperor Palace people, where were they at that time? How dare you? Are you suspecting sect leader Lin? A long-robed Taoist with a pointy mouth, monkey cheeks, and a goatee immediately slammed the table and shouted loudly. He was called Li Ji, and was originally a sect leader of a celestial sect. After the celestial sect was destroyed, he attached himself to Lin Yujing, and became an elder of Jingyu Emperor Palace. Elderly, please don't misunderstand, I just want to clarify things, and have no intention of suspecting sect leader Lin. Shi Ling Pavilion Master said indifferently. Li Ji wanted to say something, but at this moment, another voice came from the other side. Shi Ling Pavilion Master's question is very important to us. Our people were fighting with their lives on the front lines, but we still don't know what your disciples were doing? The one who spoke was also a sect leader, and his strength was above the Shi Ling Pavilion Master. Not bad, I am really interested in what Jingyu Emperor Hall people did. Sect leader Lin, please tell me the truth. Sect leader Lin, please tell me where your sect members were? Sect leader Lin, aren't you going to say anything? In my opinion, we should be honest with each other about this matter. The people in the meeting hall could no longer remain calm. They all stood up and spoke. Everyone's gaze was focused on Lin Yujing. Their eyes were filled with doubt and wariness. Lin Yujing did not speak. He just looked at these people quietly. The voices of the people gradually rose and grew louder. In the end, they gradually faded away. However, the focus of the meeting hall had shifted from Lin Yujing's doubts to the people's doubts about him. My sect's disciple is naturally in my Jingyu Emperor Palace. Don't tell me you don't know? Lin Yujing snorted. He actually knew what these people were thinking, and also understood that these people were just shirking responsibility. When they were preparing for this operation, these celestial sects actually colluded with each other and requested Jingyu Emperor Palace not to participate in this battle, but to act as backup to deal with unforeseen events. Lin Yujing also knew what they meant. They were worried that Jingyu Emperor Palace people were too strong. If they were allowed to participate, the body of the god would probably be taken away by Jingyu Emperor Palace people halfway. Therefore, Lin Yujing did not send a single person for this operation. Not only that, these celestial sects had sent a large number of spies around Jingyu Emperor Palace to monitor them. Many people, including the Shi Ling Pavilion Master, actually knew that this matter had nothing to do with Jingyu Emperor Palace. However, if he wanted to say so, he had to say so. Firstly, once he had such doubts, then he could explain to his people why this matter happened. There was only one reason. Jingyu Emperor Palace, who was in alliance with them, might have betrayed them. Then, it would not be the sect's fault, but Jingyu Emperor Palace's. The Shi Ling Pavilion Master wanted to use Lin Yujing to appease the people in the sect. The other sect leaders also thought so. Lin Yujing naturally knew what these people were thinking, but he did not point it out. Sect leader Lin, your Jingyu Emperor Palace is strong and powerful. How could it not be easy for you to avoid us spies? The Shi Ling Pavilion Master said indifferently. Then, where do you think the people from Jingyu Emperor Palace were at that time? Lin Yujing did not seem to want to refute anymore. He immediately sat down and asked. As soon as he finished speaking, everyone stopped talking again. Pairs of eyes turned to Shi Ling Pavilion Master. Shi Ling Pavilion Master's face was a little ugly, but at this moment he was already riding a tiger and had no way out. He looked at everyone present, took a deep breath and said in a deep voice, "Sect Leader Lin, the people from your sect back then, did they really not follow us to Peerless Sect?" In the end, they were still afraid of Lin Yujing. Shi Ling Pavilion Master expressed his meaning tactfully. What a joke. Since Jingyu Emperor Palace said that they would not go, they would not go. Does Shi Ling Pavilion Master still need to question this? But, Shi Ling Pavilion Master still wanted to say something, but Lin Yujing was already impatient. He directly interrupted him. Enough, I know what you are thinking. You don't have to push the responsibility to me anymore. The meeting hall became solemn. Lin Yujing directly said, "Now, the divine body has been taken away. We have an even bigger enemy to face. Don't you think about who this enemy is? Why are you still questioning me here? Don't you think this is a waste of time? If I, Lin Yujing, really sent people to kill hundreds of thousands of your disciples, and then took away the divine body, then why would I, Lin Yujing, look for you to cooperate? Moreover, I won't listen to your nonsense here." He believed that the startling Feather Imperial Palace could not do this. Everyone was shocked and stunned. Now, I can tell you that there is a force that may be more powerful than Jingyu Emperor Palace that has been involved in this matter for a long time. The divine body is definitely in their hands. What we should do now is to find this force and take back the divine body. Takes time to absorb the divine body, so we still have a chance. What I want to hear the most now is not that you are questioning me here, but that you can tell me some information about this force. Do you understand? Everyone was speechless. Shi Ling Pavilion Master also sat down and did not say a word. Lin Yujing waited for a while. Seeing that everyone still did not express their thoughts, the anger in his eyes intensified. If there is anyone who does not want to stay in this alliance, you can leave at any time. If you still want to stay here, I hope that you will not be so indifferent. Think carefully about what to do next. I do not have time to appease you here. If you have thought it through, then come and inform me. I will not stay for long." After speaking, he directly walked out of the door, leaving behind the leaders of the immortal sects in the hall. Seeing this, Li Ji hurriedly followed. The meeting hall regained its silence. Everyone looked at each other. In the end, they did not say much and left. The two of them directly flew out of the temporary alliance encampment and flew towards Jingyu Emperor Palace. Their speed was extremely fast. In the blink of an eye, they left the encampment behind. Those bastards are really despicable. They actually dared to question sect leader. They are simply reckless. Especially that Shi Ling Pavilion Master. He did not even look at his identity and strength. He actually dared to provoke sect leader. It is really infuriating. Along the way, Li Ji could not close his mouth. He kept talking non-stop, complaining about the sect leaders of the immortal sections. Lin Yujing was indifferent. There was not much expression on his face. The anger from before had also disappeared. It was as if he had always been pretending. Chapter 1047. After Su Yun's orders were given, the people in charge of the four immortal sects quickly took action. He brought Faceless back to the immortal seeking sect and waited for the elites of the other immortal sects to arrive. Qin Qianlong, Wei Ming and Xing Bai had long since arrived at the immortal seeking sect to discuss the plan with Su Yun. The group of people sat in the hall. Everyone did not say a word, they all looked at Su Yun, who had his eyes closed as if he was thinking about something, and after a long while, he slowly spoke. After everyone is in position, we will set off from the west, circle around to the back of the dome door, and first launch a surprise attack on the octagonal door. Octagonal door? Everyone was shocked. Yes, the octagonal door. Su Yun stood up. With a wave of his hand, a piece of fluorescent paper flew out from his palm. The paper split into pieces of snowflake-like substance in the air. The whirlpool quickly arranged, turning into a dazzling light map. Su Yun pointed to an area filled with thick blue clouds, and said indifferently, "This is the Blue Cloud Vault sect. We will first gather here, and then send a vanguard unit to provoke the octagonal door. The rest of the people will go around and launch a sneak attack. The purpose of this operation is still the same as before, to plunder resources. If the situation is critical, we can directly kill them, understand?" Su Yun said. "Understood." Everyone nodded. However, Xing Bai revealed a look of doubt and asked, "Master, since we are going to make a move against the alliance, we should first get rid of the weak. Since we have made a move, then the other party will notice sooner or later. If we get rid of the weak, we can end the battle in an instant and deal with more immortal sects before the other party can react. Isn't that better? But this octagonal door is considered to be extremely powerful among the alliance immortal sect. If we find such a powerful person right from the start, I'm afraid that when we take down the octagonal door, the alliance immortal sect will have already sensed us and will gather together. At that time, it will be difficult for us to make a move against the other sections." "That's right." Su Yun nodded, but then shook his head. "But your analysis is wrong." Xing Bai was startled. However, Su Yun's voice came out again. "The Eight Harmonies School is considered a middle and upper-level immortal sect in the immortal world, but that was in the past. After experiencing this incident, most of the elites in the Eight Harmonies School have died miserably, and their strength has already dropped to the level of a middle-level immortal sect. We now have 3 middle and upper-level immortal sects, and 1 middle and lower-level immortal sect. Be that as it may, my lord, the sect master of the 8 United Gate, Celestial Sovereign 4 Seas, is a famous great immortal in the immortal world a long time ago. I'm afraid it'll be very difficult to deal with him alone. Although the 8 United Gate suffered heavy casualties, its foundation is still intact. I heard that all the barriers and other defensive systems inside and outside the 8 United Gate were personally set up by Celestial Sovereign 4 Seas. These barriers are extremely powerful, and it's said that some of them have even been enchanted by him, allowing them to sound alarms and counterattack. Xing Bai was very hesitant, but he only said what he was thinking and worried about. Although these were not good words, Su Yun was still very happy to hear it. After all, the current Xing Bai was already standing on everyone's side and considering the problem, which was a good thing for Su Yun. "Faceless!" Su Yun shouted towards the door. A tall and sturdy man wearing a mask had walked in at an unknown time. The man's aura was especially heavy, and with every step he took, it gave off a feeling of fear and trepidation. Seeing this person enter, the few people present all felt a formless pressure pouncing towards them. In that instant, Xing Bai and the rest knew that this person's strength was probably not inferior to theirs, and was at least in existence at the 4th stage of the Spirit Profound Immortal realm. At the level of the Spirit Profound Immortal, the gap between immortals would often be very large. Even if one was one stage lower than the other, it would be like the difference between heaven and earth. But then, this person walked straight in front of Su Yun, knelt down on one knee, and respectfully bowed to Su Yun. "Master." "Yes, get up." Su Yun nodded and said indifferently, "Yes." With that said, Faceless stood up and stood at the side like a pillar. After taking off the 100 battle armor and putting on the mask, no one would know what his original identity was. "What do you think of his strength?" Su Yun pointed to Faceless and asked. "Him?" The 4 of them all focused their gazes on Faceless. Xian'er looked at each other in dismay, and Qin Qianlong spoke first. "His strength is unfathomable, extraordinary. If you were to fight against Qianlong, Do you have the confidence to defeat him? This. Qin Qianlong hesitated for a moment, then shook his head. That's hard to say. Then it's 50-50? Then let's do this first. You say he can defeat you, and I will only ask you one question. Can you defeat him within 2 hours and even kill him? Su Yun asked. Of course not. Qin Qianlong shook his head. Then, with the 4 Seas Empyrean's methods, can he kill him within 2 hours? This. Qianlong does not dare to overestimate. What about half an hour? That won't be surprising. Even the 4 Seas Empyrean can't kill an existence of such strength within half an hour. In the immortal realm, I'm afraid there are only a handful of people who dare to do so, Qin Qianlong said straightforwardly. Then there's no problem. Su Yun said indifferently, we have at least half an hour, enough for us to take action. Moreover, we might not even need half an hour. When the 4 of them heard this, they were all astonished and looked at Su Yun in confusion. My lord, what do you mean by this? It's very simple. Su Yun pointed at Faceless again. This time, he will delay the 4 Seas Empyrean. Him? Is he alone? Yes. Su Yun said indifferently. My lord, although this expert doesn't seem to be weak, if it's just him, I'm afraid he won't be able to delay the 4 Seas Empyrean. If the 4 Seas Empyrean wants to shake him off and stop us, this expert won't be able to stop him, Xingbai said with a worried expression. However, as soon as he said this, a trace of malevolence flashed past Su Yun's eyes. He said solemnly, my goal this time is not necessarily to swallow the 8 Unity sect. If I can seize the opportunity, I still want to do something else. No one made a sound and looked at Su Yun in shock. But when Su Yun spoke again, his voice seemed to be deep. If we can kill the 4 Seas Empyrean, that would be even better. Ah! Everyone cried out in surprise. Xingbai stood up and opened his mouth, as if he wanted to say something, but was stopped by Su Yun's raised hand. Xingbai, I know what you want to say, but there are some things that you will never know if you will succeed if you don't do it. The 4 Seas Empyrean is powerful and has a wide network. If we succeed in killing him, it will be fine, but if we fail and let him escape, it will undoubtedly bring a great disaster to our 4 immortal sections. However, we have no choice but to kill him this time. Su Yun's face turned cold, and he said solemnly, the 4 Seas Empyrean is a famous immortal in the immortal world, but there are rumors that the 4 Seas Empyrean has cultivated a secret technique from the true evil realm in recent years. This immortal technique is especially vicious, and can refine a living person into a pill, completely devouring all of his cultivation and realm. The 4 Seas Empyrean relied on this secret technique to increase his cultivation. Haven't you noticed that the increase in his cultivation in recent years is a little abnormal? That is the truth. Qin Qianlong nodded and said, I heard that the 4 Seas Empyrean once destroyed a small immortal sect with only 3,000 people, and captured all of them alive. However, no one knows where these 3,000 people are now. This matter was revealed by a disciple of the 8 Harmonies sect. That disciple seemed to know the truth, and he could not stand the vicious methods of the 4 Seas Empyrean, so he reported it to the Immortal Court. The Immortal Court also sent people over, but I don't know what method 4 Seas Empyrean used, but he actually sent the people of the Immortal Court away. As for the disciple who reported it, there is no news of him. I guess he was most likely killed by the 4 Seas Empyrean. After all, with the methods of the 4 Seas Empyrean, that disciple will be found no matter where he hides. It seems that all of you have heard about the Celestial Master of the 4 Seas. But this time, I want to tell all of you that the Celestial Master of the 4 Seas has extended his hand to our Immortal Seeking sect. Last month, 11 of our disciples suddenly disappeared when they passed by the Cheong sect. 10 days ago, I sent a team of 20 people to the Cheong sect to investigate the matter. However, the 20 people were also attacked by the people of the Bahi sect. Although the people of the Bahi sect were disguised, their moves were recognized by the people of the Bahi sect. One of them fled desperately to report the news. Only then did I know that this matter was not a rumor. Su Yun said solemnly. Damn it. There's actually such a thing. Xingbai turned his head and stared at Xiang Yang. Master Xiang Yang, you should have informed Master when you found out that something was wrong. You shouldn't have delayed it until now. When something happened to those disciples, I reported it to Master. However, at that time, the Eight Harmonies sect was not to be trifled with. Master said that we could not act rashly. Xiang Yang said with a bitter face. You don't have to blame Xiang Yang. At that time, we had too many things to do. If we were to deal with the Eight Harmonies sect, we would be powerless. Furthermore, the Eight Harmonies sect was much stronger than it is now. Even if we could swallow the Eight Harmonies sect, I'm afraid we would suffer heavy losses. Su Yun said indifferently. Since the time is ripe, Master, we must not let the Eight Harmonies sect go. Xingbai stood up, cupped his fists and said, Master, in 3 days, the elites of our sects will definitely be able to gather in the Immortal Seeking sect. I estimate that there will be at least 100,000 people, and these people are all experts of the 3rd stage of the Spirit Profound Immortal Realm. If we go to the Eight Harmonies sect, they will definitely not be able to stop us. Master, when do we make our move? There's no rush. We still need to formulate a plan before we make our move. I still say the same thing, don't let hatred affect your judgment. It's impossible for us to be the only ones who know that the 4 Seas Empyrean has done such a thing. I'm afraid that there are many people who have grudges against the Eight Harmonies sect. Master, can we borrow the strength of these people to deal with the Eight Harmonies sect? Qin Qianlong said. No need. Su Yun shook his head and said indifferently, It's best for us to do this alone. And it's best to be secretive and not let others know. Hearing that, Qin Qianlong immediately asked, Master, what plans do you have? Plans? Su Yun thought for a moment, then said indifferently, I have a lot of plans, no matter what. I will first kill the 4 Seas Empyrean, then we can talk about the next plan. He stood up, stared at the 5 people in the hall, and bellowed, After the strength is gathered, Wei Ming will lead an elite group to set off, and go to the Eight Harmonies sect to cause trouble. The rest will circle around and prepare to launch a surprise attack. Faceless and I will follow behind Wei Ming, and once we lure the 4 Seas Empyrean out, we will immediately make our move. Yes. Everyone stood up and cupped their fists. Once the strength is gathered, rest for half a day, distribute the resources, and then immediately set off. Chapter 1048. In a dark and spacious hall, one could faintly hear whimpers and helpless moans. In the dim light, one could see a large number of immortals, both men and women. At that moment, these immortals were all naked and hung by copper-colored chains. Some of them were unconscious, while others slowly opened their eyes. They stared in horror at the huge cauldron placed in the center of the hall. The cauldron was pitch black in color, and its surface was engraved with the face of a ferocious demon. Beneath the cauldron were broken limbs. These limbs were like scaffolding, supporting the huge and bloated cauldron. The top of the cauldron emitted a pungent black smoke, and green light flashed from within. It was unknown what was being refined, but if one listened carefully, they would be able to hear screams coming from within. The people hung up stared at the cauldron in horror, and their bodies trembled violently. How pitiful! Look at them, what do they look like? The 2 immortals standing at the entrance of the hall leaned against the wall and looked mockingly at the people hung up. Don't you think they look like pigs? Boars and sows? Don't you think so? Ha 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 ha. Yes. Yes. Ha 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 ha. The 2's mocking laughter echoed throughout the hall, but none of the people hung up felt angry. They were already surrounded by fear, and had long since lost all other emotions. Creaking sounds rang out, and at that moment the door was pushed open. The two people who were still laughing wildly immediately stopped and hurriedly bowed to the newcomer. The newcomer was an elderly man dressed in a black robe. He carried a long dao sword on his back and held a horsetail whisk in his hand. His sunken eyes casually glanced at the two disciples at the entrance, then he walked in without saying a word. Ugh! When the old man walked into the hall, whimpering sounds immediately rang out. It sounded like crying, but also like struggling. Fear and despair filled the entire hall. The old man held the horsetail whisk and walked around these people. His eyes carefully sized up each person's body. Finally, his gaze lingered on a man and a woman. Open the cauldron. The old man turned around and said. As soon as he finished speaking, the entire hall immediately boiled over. Everyone frantically shook their bodies as if they wanted to break free from the iron chains that bound their wrists. However, no matter how hard they tried, they could not escape. These people who used to be called immortals were now like fish on a chopping board waiting to be slaughtered. Yes, master. The two disciples hastily cupped their fists and quickly walked to the side of the cauldron. They each made a hand seal, and the heavy lid of the cauldron immediately floated up. A towering mist spewed out from within, accompanied by a large number of miserable screams. The people who were hung up looked inside the cauldron, and a terrifying scene appeared in their line of sight. Inside the cauldron, there were corpses that had been roasted to the point that they did not even look human. They were all dead, but their souls were struggling on the corpses, and for some reason, their souls seemed to be pinched by the corpses, and they could not break free no matter how hard they struggled. They could only suffer the corrosion and roasting of the evil fire in the cauldron along with the corpses, and the scene was extremely tragic. The old man looked at the terrified expressions on the faces of the people who were hung up, and his serious old face actually revealed a strange smile. He walked to the side of the man and woman, and circled around their bodies. He stroked the beard on his chin and said, "Second stage of the spirit, profound immortal realm, good foundation, strong soul, good equipment for refining pills, add the two of them in." "Yes, master." The two disciples nodded. They walked to the side and pulled the iron chains on the wall. In an instant, the two immortals who were hung by the chains were pulled towards the mouth of the cauldron. "Ah!" The man and woman let out shrill cries. Even though they did not have much strength left, they still managed to find the strength to struggle in their final moments. However, the only thing they could do now was struggle. Their strength had already been sealed. It was impossible for them to escape this terrifying hall. Since you've been captured by me, you should obediently become my human flesh refinement materials. When this divine pill is forged and consumed by me, it would be your honor, wouldn't it? The old man said with a smile. The more these people struggled, the more afraid they became, the more terrified they became. The smile on the old man's face became even wider. The iron chains dragged the man and woman slowly into the cauldron. The elders ignored their whimpers and screams and just stared at them. Plop! The iron chains binding their wrists suddenly broke, and the two of them fell into the cauldron's mouth like kites with their strings cut. Almost at the same instant that the two of them landed, the heavy lid of the cauldron was immediately closed. The flames beneath the cauldron suddenly increased in size, and the terrifying flames roasted the cauldron in a frenzy. "Ah!" Shrill screams rang out from within the cauldron. The cauldron shook slightly. It was clear that the people inside were struggling intensely. However, the old man's expression was relaxed. He quietly watched the struggling cauldron. In just a few breaths' time, the cauldron calmed down. Everything returned to normal. Only the people who were being hung up were still whimpering and crying. This place was like purgatory. The old man nodded in satisfaction. He turned around and said to the two disciples, "Look after this cauldron. Don't let the fire extinguish." "Yes, master," the two said respectfully. The old man nodded and walked out. Whoosh! A gust of wind blew, and a large number of figures flew at lightning speed towards the deep blue, ocean-like thick clouds in front of them. The thick clouds were vast and boundless. They occupied the entire sky in front of them. The clouds were so thick that even immortal chi could not seep through them. If people walked in, they would most likely lose their way. It was like a thick wall that blocked the way in front of them. However, what was surprising was that there was a huge opening in the middle of the thick cloud layer. This opening was very magical. It was like a door that led directly to the other side of the cloud layer. This was the Cheong Gate. Spread out and hide, Wei Ming shouted. He took the lead and dashed to the right side of the sky door. He used an immortal art and disappeared completely. When the other followers saw this, they immediately followed suit. Before they could reach the sky door, they had already disappeared without a trace. Although they were invisible, they were actually hiding to the side, using the power of the immortal artifacts to conceal their figures. Use the immortal artifacts. We must not let anyone detect our presence. It's best to hide here, understand? Wei Ming said after he became invisible. Elder, there's no one here. Do we need to be on guard against anyone? A disciple of Ling Long Palace asked curiously. Who said there's no one here? Wei Ming snorted and said, It's just that you guys haven't seen it. This is the sky door, close to the 8 Harmonies Gate. Many loose immortals who pass by here have mysteriously disappeared. If we're not wrong, they've most likely been captured by the 8 Harmonies Gate. If there's no one hiding here, then they're on the other side of the 8 Harmonies Gate. In short, there are many tricks here. We just need to keep an eye on them. What if someone appears? The disciple asked again. Wei Ming's face sank when he heard this. As long as it's someone from the 8 Harmonies Gate, kill them all. No need to show mercy. Yes. Everyone shouted. A group of people stood guard in front of the sky door. Looking into the distance, there was no one here. After waiting for an unknown period of time, I believe the Lord should be here soon. Yuan Zhu, go ahead and take a look. At this moment, Wei Ming spoke again. A female disciple flew out and directly rushed forward. However, she didn't fly for long before she turned back. Elder, someone's coming. The disciple called Yuan Zhu said. Is it the Lord? Wei Ming asked. Lord. The disciple called Yuan Zhu was slightly suspicious. Who is the elder referring to? Hearing that, Wei Ming was startled for a moment. Only then did he realize that he did not reveal the matter of Su Yun to his disciples. Even Xing Bai and Qin Qianlong were the same. They only told their disciples that it was an alliance between a few sects, that was all. He coughed and said, You all should know that our De Ling Long Palace has already formed an alliance with the Hidden Dragon Hall, Carefree Palace and the Immortal Seeking Sect, right? This disciple knows. Everyone nodded. Then, this lord is the alliance leader of this alliance. Alliance leader? May I ask if it's sect leader Qin Qianlong or sect leader Xing Bai? Yuan Zhu asked again. It's neither. A trace of fear flashed past Wei Ming's eyes, and he said in a low voice, It's the one who killed Kuei Yang, the protector of the Immortal Seeking Sect. His strength is actually far above ours. Everyone was shocked. Regarding the matters of the Lord, you all don't need to say any more. In short, following this Lord will only be better than following Kuei Yang. You all just need to understand this point. I will bring you all along. You all will not be at a disadvantage. Wei Ming spoke once more. When he spoke up to hear, he noticed that he'd said a bit too much, and he hurriedly added on. He had the intention to take this group of disciples as his trusted subordinates, and it would depend on whether these disciples had the ability to comprehend. In truth, Wei Ming knew about these disciples, although they were all elite disciples, but in the past, Kuei Yang did not care about them, and many of the difficult missions in the De Ling Long Palace were assigned to them to complete, but the things they obtained were only the standard rewards, and Kuei Yang rarely asked about it, although these elites did not say anything, but these elites still had a knot in their hearts. People were like that. If others did not care about them, they would not be reluctant to part with others. Disciple understands. Yuan Zhu nodded. Then, how are the people that you found out about dressed? They are all dressed differently, their clothes are not the same. They are most likely not our people, be careful. Wei Ming bellowed. Everyone nodded and immediately went into hiding. Soon, several figures appeared in the distance, all of whom were rogue cultivators. Chapter 1049. There were a total of 5 rogue cultivators. Their cultivations were not bad, they were all at the spirit profound immortal realm, but from the looks of it, they did not wear any immortal sect order badges on their waists. They should not be from the immortal sects, and their clothes were not uniform. It could be seen that they were lone cultivators. Why did these rogue immortals come here? Yuan Zhu retracted her gaze and asked, Elder, what should we do now? Wait and see. If they want to go over, then let them go. Wei Ming said solemnly. Hearing that, everyone nodded and did not say a word. These rogue cultivators came to the front of the sky gate and scanned the majestic sky gate. After stopping for a moment, they entered the sky gate. Seeing that, Wei Ming and the rest quietly followed. The sky gate was extremely long, or it could be said that the sea of clouds was thick enough. It was as if everyone was walking through a long tunnel. As they walked forward, they could see the light in front of them, but no matter how much they walked, they could not reach the end. These rogue cultivators were not on guard at all. After entering the sky gate, other than sighing at the wonders of the sky gate, they did not do anything else. The long sky gate seemed to be deserted. Even if someone spoke in a low voice, they would be able to hear it clearly at the sky gate. It was just that before they could even walk out of the sky gate, suddenly, from the front and back of the sky gate, bursts of green light shot out. The light transformed into a net, front and back, and with an astonishing speed, it rushed towards the group of rogue cultivators in the middle. The rogue cultivators sensed that something was amiss and shouted, "Be careful!" They anxiously activated their immortal treasures to defend themselves, but when the net blew over, it directly pierced through their defenses and struck their bodies. This group of people did not even have the time to make any movements before they were wrapped up by the 2 nets, and all of them fell to the ground. They were like a group of chickens, unable to move even if they wanted to. What's going on? Big brother, I can't use the immortal energy in my body. It's so uncomfortable, I feel like the immortal meridians in my body are being strangled by this strange net, and I can't even move them. A few people struggled and cried out in pain. However, it was useless. At this moment, from the front and back of the sky gate, more than 10 men and women dressed in uniform walked out. These people held swords in their hands and walked towards the rogue cultivators who were trapped in the net. These rogue cultivators had no idea where they had been hiding or how they had appeared. These people walked up to the group of rogue cultivators and circled around them. The fish isn't fat. I don't know if Master will be satisfied. No matter what, they are still a group of spirit profound immortal realm fellows. Even if they have just entered the spirit profound immortal realm, it is enough. We have not caught any fish for many days. The other senior and junior brothers all have a bountiful harvest. If we do not hand over some goods, Master will be angry. There's nothing we can do about it. We're only sent here to catch fish. Unlike them, they can go to other places to catch fish. Too many things happen here, and the fish won't swim here. Although there are a few hotheads, they won't be so lucky every time. Who asked us to be weaker than those people? We can only accept our fate. Sigh. Since we managed to catch the fish, we did gain something from it. Stop complaining and hurry back to the sect. Yes. The immortals walked towards the net as they spoke. The rogue cultivators felt their hearts skip a beat as they looked at the people walking towards them in horror. Fish? These people actually called them fish? Weren't they even human? What did these people do? Who were they? Fear filled the hearts of the rogue cultivators. Who are you? We have no enmity with you. If we have offended you in any way, please forgive us. One of the rogue cultivators shouted with a trembling voice. However, just as he finished speaking, what welcomed him was a powerful kick. Bang! The man's abdomen was kicked, and the surging force sent them flying into the clouds. However, before they could fly far, they were pulled back and fiercely fell onto the clouds. Looking at the man who had just spoken, he had actually fainted and lost consciousness. His chest was a mess of flesh and blood, which showed how terrifying the force of that kick was. Don't ask too much, or else you will suffer. The man who kicked them snorted and waved his hand. Bring them back. Yes, senior brother. The immortals nodded and began to keep the net. The rogue cultivators squeezed into the small net, were lifted by an immortal, and flew out of the Cheong gate. Where are you taking us? Let us go, let us go. The rogue immortals panicked and shouted at the top of their lungs. Where are we taking you? The 8 Unity sect, of course. An immortal turned around and said casually. 8 Unity sect? You are from the 8 Unity sect? The rogue immortals were stunned for a while before they shouted in unison. Their voices were chaotic. Sir, we are just rogue cultivators who want to join the 8 Unity sect. We came here today to join the 8 Unity sect. Sir, please let us go. Yes, seniors, we have been cautious since we entered the territory of the 8 Unity sect. We have not made any mistakes. They explained and begged, hoping that the other party would let them go. However, these rogue immortals were too naive. Join the 8 Unity sect? Humph, don't you know that the 8 Unity sect has stopped accepting disciples recently? The Celestial's voice was cold as he said, Don't talk nonsense. Since you've been captured by us, then behave yourself. Otherwise, I don't mind cutting off your tongues, breaking your arms and legs, and bringing you back. Master only wants you alive. He doesn't care if you're crippled or not. Ah! The rogue immortals turned pale when they heard that. Let's go. The immortal ignored the cries of the rogue immortals and walked forward. The rogue immortals were in despair. They looked at the immortals helplessly and no longer spoke. They knew it was useless to say anything at this time. However, at this moment, the immortals who were about to capture the itinerant cultivators and return to the 8 Harmonies gate stopped in their tracks. They raised their heads and looked ahead with solemn expressions, only to see the void in front of them suddenly distort. Then, a large number of immortals walked out of it. There are uninvited guests? The disciples of the 8 Unity sect harumphed. Senior brother, there are more behind us. There were cries of surprise. The disciples of the 8 Harmonies school looked back in unison. Just one look was enough to make them tremble in fear. There were countless people behind them. They had almost completely sealed off the Cheong gate, so there was no way for them to escape. Why didn't they notice them when they were approaching? Could it be that the mantis stalks the cicada, unaware of the oriole behind? The disciples of the 8 Unity sect were puzzled. They could only think of one possibility, that these people's cultivation was too strong. It seems like Master was right. The 8 Unity sect is indeed doing some filthy things. Humph, using living people to cultivate, do you think you are worthy of being called immortals? I think even the demons are no match for you. Wei Ming walked forward with his hands behind his back, and said coldly, while staring at the immortals. Who are you? The disciples of the 8 Unity sect asked in a deep voice. How dare you? How dare you speak to our elder in such a tone? Do you know that the person standing in front of you is the famous elder of the Dali Linglong Palace, Wei Ming? Have you heard of him? Without waiting for Wei Ming to speak, the disciples beside him started shouting. As soon as he finished speaking, the expressions of the disciples of the 8 Harmony Gate changed, and they looked at Wei Ming in shock. You're Wei Ming? Since you know it's me, then surrender obediently. Don't waste everyone's energy. Wei Ming said indifferently. Xian raised her hand and waved, Capture them alive. Yes, elder. The elites of the Dalai Linglong Palace immediately swarmed forward and charged at the people of the Eight Unity sect. Facing so many powerful opponents, the people of the Eight Unity sect knew that they couldn't win. The only thing they could do now was to inform the sect as soon as possible. Quick, hold them back, Lu Yu. Hurry and inform the sect master? Yes. The Eight Unity sect disciple called Lu Yu hurriedly took out his magic tool and wanted to send a signal. However, just as he was about to move, a bolt of azure lightning suddenly shot out from the front. The lightning strangely passed through the crowd and directly struck the person called Lu Yu. In an instant, the person's body turned into ashes and he died. His soul floated out, but it didn't fly for long before it was struck by another bolt of lightning and completely obliterated. Such a scene immediately intimidated the people of the Eight Unity sect. You dare to be so impudent in front of me? Wei Ming's face darkened and his tone was filled with anger. I won't give you many chances. Now, either you surrender obediently, or I'll personally send you on your way. Make your choice. If anyone dares to play any tricks, I won't let you live. All of you can die. As his voice fell, a thick killing intent overflowed from Wei Ming's body. Everyone trembled, and none of them dared to have any thoughts of resisting. The elite disciples of Dalai Long Palace took out ropes that they had prepared beforehand and tied all of them up. These weren't ordinary ropes, but immortal rope. After being tied up, they could suppress an immortal's immortal force, making them unable to resist. It didn't take long for all of them to be subdued. Elder, what should we do with these people? At this moment, Yuan Zhu pointed at the rogue immortals who were still trapped in the net and asked, Should we kill them? A disciple beside her asked. Kill them? Wei Ming rubbed his chin and pondered for a moment. Then, he walked up to the net and asked the people inside. I seem to have heard you say that you're preparing to join the Eight Unity sect, right? The rogue immortals had seen the methods of Wei Ming and the others, so they were naturally extremely afraid of Wei Ming. However, no one dared to answer his question. Wei Ming. Elder Wei Ming, you just have to answer yes or no. I. The rogue immortal hesitated for a long time, but in the end, he still nodded and said with a trembling voice, Yes. Wei Ming stood up, turned around and said to Yuan Zhu, Take them and hide first. The Lord should be arriving soon. Leave them to the Lord and see how he plans to deal with them. Yes, Elder. Chapter 1050. When Su Yun followed the army and rushed to the dome door, Wei Ming had already taken complete control of the place. Not only that, even the disciples sent by the Eight Harmonies sect had been captured alive, which surprised Su Yun greatly. Well done. Su Yun, who was dressed in a pitch-black cloak and accompanied by Wei Ming, arrived in front of the disciples of the Eight Harmonies sect, and swept his gaze across them, along with the few scattered immortals. This subordinate captured these few people, but considering that they might be of help to our plan, I did not execute them. There are also a few scattered immortals. This subordinate also felt that there was something strange about them, so I left them behind. Master, please deal with them. Wei Ming said respectfully to Su Yun. Hearing that, Su Yun nodded his head thoughtfully, his gaze stopped on the few people, and after an unknown period of time, he finally spoke. You are from the Eight Harmonies sect? Yes, sir. We don't want to die. Can you not kill us? The people from the Eight Harmonies sect immediately shouted with trembling voices. You don't want to die? All right, I won't kill you. Su Yun squatted down and looked at the people from the Eight Harmonies sect who were crawling on the ground. Under the pitch-black cloak was a strange and gloomy face. When the people from the Eight Harmonies sect heard this, they were all stunned. The man in the lead said with a trembling voice, Master, is what Master said true? As long as I ask you something, you will answer it. I guarantee that you will be able to live well. Su Yun said. Sure. Yes. Master, Master, whatever you want to ask, I'll tell you. I'll tell you everything. I'll definitely tell you everything I know. Master, ask away. The man seemed to have grabbed onto a life-saving straw as he shouted in a shrill voice. Seeing that you're so obedient, I'll give you a chance. Su Yun stood up and looked down at them from above, and said indifferently, Let me ask you, what did the Four Seas Empyrean send you here for? Master. Master sent us here to capture some immortals and bring them back for him. The man hesitated for a moment before continuing, for him to refine pills to increase his cultivation base. Su Yun frowned. Refine pills? What kind of pill are you concocting? It is said that it is a type of pill from the evil realm that can quickly increase one's cultivation level, but this pill is unorthodox, the ingredients used are also unorthodox, and its main ingredient is not the so-called treasures of heaven and earth, but immortals with immortal power. It is said that when refining this pill, the more immortals put in, the stronger the immortal power bestowed by the pill, and the higher the realm. I heard it from a few senior brothers and sisters of Master. They said that rather than saying that this pill bestows cultivation, it is more like saying that this pill is a vessel to steal the immortal's cultivation, and when the immortal is thrown into the cauldron to refine the pill, the immortal's cultivation will all be poured into the pill. And after taking the pill, the cultivation inside will be perfectly transferred to the person who takes the pill. So the Four Seas Empyrean sent you here to capture immortals to refine pills? Su Yun asked. Yes. When did you guys start? Are you asking when Master started, or are you asking when I started? What's the difference? 2 years ago, Master sent us disciples to accept this point. In the past, there seemed to be other senior brothers and sisters who took over, but after something happened to them, we took over. As for when Master started to capture immortals to refine this evil pill, I don't know. What happened? It is said that when they were capturing an immortal, the immortal escaped and attracted enemies. Although Master sent the immortal's enemies away, his anger did not disappear, and he threw the group of senior brothers and sisters into the cauldron. The actions of the Four Seas Empyrean, I'm afraid he's not even comparable to a demon. Su Yun sneered, but after a moment, his smile stopped and he asked, What you said just now? Do you still have a lot of points? That's right, Master has set up more than 20 points, and there is also a group of disciples who are in charge of wandering around and capturing people. Because the daily demand for this pill is very high, at least 10 immortals need to be used as human flesh materials to refine it. The disciple said in a low voice. When these words fell, the surrounding people could not help but be enraged. Bastard! For your 8 Harmonies sect to do such a thing, do you still deserve to stay in the immortal world? Aren't you afraid of damaging your Yuanda and not being able to achieve the great Tao in the future? Elder, Alliance leader, let's just kill all these people. These scum don't deserve to live in this world. Damn it! I think demons and devils are considered kind compared to them, everyone said angrily. Although many people had done some shameful things in the past, no matter what, no one would do such a completely inhumane thing. Using people as ingredients for concocting pills, and a living person at that, if news of this were to spread, it would probably shock the entire immortal world. You don't have to be angry. Su Yun raised his eyes and stared gloomily at the disciples of the 8 Harmonies sect. However, a smile hung on his lips. In your eyes, are the actions of the Four Seas Empyrean good or bad? Naturally, it's something that can't be done. Then why are you still helping him? If we don't help him, then we will be thrown into the cauldron. I remember that there was a disciple who reported this matter to the Immortal Court, but the Immortal Court couldn't do anything to Master. That disciple was also tortured to death by Master, and his soul and body were thrown into the cauldron. It's so miserable, we are afraid, and can only do things for him. I understand. Su Yun took a deep breath. He did not ask the disciples of the Eight Harmonies sect anymore, and turned his gaze to the scattered immortals. Master, we are innocent, we are just some scattered immortals. We want to attach ourselves to an immortal sect to cultivate. This time, we only want to join the Eight Harmonies sect. We did not know that the Eight Harmonies sect had such an improper thing. Master, please, please let us go. Seeing that Su Yun was looking at them, the scattered immortals immediately shouted out. Are you really just a group of scattered immortals? Did you come here just to join the Eight Harmonies sect? Su Yun stared at them. Absolutely. That person did not dare to look straight into Su Yun's eyes, and lowered his head. I hope you guys don't lie to me. Su Yun turned his head, and said to Wei Ming and the rest who were standing at the side, use the great exquisite technique on them, and see if they lied to us. Yes, my lord. Wei Ming nodded, and gave a look to the people beside him. Immediately, 2 disciples walked out and walked towards them. When the rogue cultivators saw this, their faces all turned extremely pale. They had forgotten that Wei Ming was an elder of the Dali Palace. How could he not know the Dali Palace's technique? The few of them secretly looked at each other, and could see the fear and worry in each other's eyes. The 2 disciples were getting closer and closer. Finally, the leader of the scattered immortals could not hold on any longer. He suddenly laid on the ground and gritted his teeth. No need, my lord, I am willing to tell the truth. Truth? What? Weren't you guys telling the truth before? Su Yun said. Of that? Alright, tell me who you guys are first. We are from the Jingyu Imperial Palace, the man said in a low voice. Jingyu Imperial Palace? Xing Bai, who was standing behind Su Yun, frowned and said, do the people of Jingyu Imperial Palace also know about the despicable matter of the Eight Harmonies sect? This Hall Master has only heard a little about it, and is not sure yet. This time is not for this matter. Then why did your Hall Master Lin send you to the Eight Harmonies sect? Su Yun asked. With that said, the man actually became hesitating and not saying a word. Seeing that, Su Yun snapped his fingers. Wei Ming. Yes, my lord. I'll tell you everything, the man said anxiously. No need, just use the great exquisite technique. I'm too lazy to listen. Su Yun said indifferently. After all, Su Yun did not know if the words were true or false, so he might as well use the great exquisite technique, which was more convenient and at ease. Wei Ming immediately instructed the 2 disciples to do their work. At this moment, the man was filled with regret. If he had known this would happen, he would have answered him right away. If he had used the great exquisite technique, wouldn't he have been able to see through all the secrets that belonged to him in his heart? In the end, they were the elites of the great exquisite palace. Although the use of the great exquisite technique could not be compared to Wei Ming and Kuei Yang, they were still very proficient. After a while, the 2 disciples reported the information they had spied on to Su Yun. It turned out that these loose immortals came from the Jingyu Imperial Palace. After Lin Yujing of the Jingyu Imperial Palace found out that the Immortal Sects Alliance had suffered the pain of their elites being completely annihilated, he immediately sent a few disciples to all the immortal sects, using the name of the loose immortals to enter their sects, to monitor their movements. In the past, Lin Yujing only monitored the movements of these immortal sects from the outside, but this time, he hoped to be able to infiltrate into the other party's inner circle, or even into the core of the higher-ups. Lin Yujing's goal in doing so was naturally very simple, and that was to make it easier for him to annex these immortal sects in the future. In fact, these loose immortals did not have the cultivation of the spirit profound immortal that they saw on the surface. Their true cultivation was at the 3rd stage of the spirit profound immortal, and after entering the designated immortal sect, they would gradually release their cultivation and recover to the 3rd stage of the spirit profound immortal. Ordinary people would think that they were talented and had outstanding abilities, and in such an immortal sect, a third stage of the spirit profound immortal was at least an elite disciple. If they could become an elite disciple or even higher, then the information they came into contact with would be more comprehensive and faster, which would be of great help to the Jingyu Imperial Palace. These people had the cultivation of the third stage of the spirit profound immortal realm, so they were naturally not afraid of the people from the Eight Harmonies sect. However, after the people from the Eight Harmonies sect appeared, they immediately changed their plans and deliberately captured them, because these people had already said that the Eight Harmonies sect would not recruit new people, so even if they went to the Eight Harmonies sect, they would not be able to enter. Since that was the case, they decided to kill these people from the Eight Harmonies sect, disguise themselves as them and sneak in, and then think of a way to stay in the Eight Harmonies sect, but disguise was not a simple matter. Not only did they have to make sure that their chi and appearance were the same, they also had to make sure that their actions and tone of voice were the same, otherwise, it would be extremely easy for others to see through them, so these people planned to follow them for a period of time and observe them. Previously, when they were begging for mercy in the Sky Gate, it was just to observe them a little longer, but they did not expect that at this critical juncture, Su Yun and the others would come and cause trouble. After knowing all of this, Su Yun could not help but sigh with emotion. These people were just disciples that Lin Yujing had sent out as spies, and they already had such intelligence and strength. If they were the elites of the Feather Palace, what kind of strength would they have? Su Yun scratched his chin and started to think. Chapter 1051. After asking about the two sides, Su Yun fell into deep thought. Wei Ming, Xing Bai and the rest stood at the side, not daring to disturb Su Yun. After a long while, Su Yun opened his mouth and called out to the back, "Faceless." It was unknown when a sturdy man wearing a gray mask had appeared from the crowd. This sturdy man's appearance was extremely strange, because the people around him did not know where he came from, and did not even see him before. The man quickly walked to Su Yun's side and knelt down on one knee. "Master, what are your orders? There's a change of plans. Later, you will follow me to the octave door. Wei Ming, bring the elite troops and provoke them from the front door. The rest of you will go around the back." Su Yun said. "Go to the octave door first?" Everyone was alarmed. Xing Bai immediately asked, "Master, what do you mean by that? How do we go to the octave door first? Do you plan to sneak in first?" "Why sneak in? Just walk in openly," Su Yun said. "Infiltrating in broad daylight?" Xing Bai was startled. His gaze inadvertently shifted to the disciples of the octave door and immediately came to a realization. "Master, you mean to borrow these people's hands?" "That's right." Su Yun nodded his head. "Didn't these people follow the orders of the Four Seas Empyrean to capture immortals to refine pills for him? Since that's the case, then let's just treat it as them capturing me and Faceless back." "Master, that's not good, right? If the Four Seas Empyrean sees through Master's identity, I'm afraid Master will be in danger." Qin Qianlong, who had been silent all this while, finally spoke up, his words filled with heaviness. Xing Bai and the rest also nodded their heads. Su Yun did not know if they were truly concerned about him, or if they were worried that no one would give them the antidote if he died. "Don't worry, I already have a plan. Everything will not change much from the original plan. Just follow the plan." Su Yun waved his hand and pointed at the disciples of the octave door. "Lead the way, bring me to the octave door." "Master, should we feed them some poison to prevent them from betraying us?" Xiang Yang cupped his fists and said. "No need." Su Yun shook his head. "With me and Faceless here, I can make them die without being able to say a word and save the poison." With that, he turned around and waved his hand. "All right, everyone from the 8th door, let's go." Seeing this, the people of the 8 Unity sect were stunned. They tentatively took a few steps forward. Seeing that Xiang Yang and the others had no intention of attacking, they tiptoed over. "My lord, what about those people from Feather Imperial Palace?" At this moment, Wei Ming shouted from behind. "Send someone to bring them back and lock them up first. They will be useful in the future." Su Yun called out and entered the dome door. When the people of Jingyu Royal Palace heard this, each and every one of them started to tremble. They really wanted to resist, but with Wei Ming here, how could they dare to be impudent? Qin Qianlong and Xing Bai, who were standing in the distance, knew that these were all powerful beings. How could they fight against them? Especially that black-cloaked fellow. Even existences like Wei Ming and Qin Qianlong addressed him as Lord. Just how terrifying was his strength? Useful in the future? Could it be that he was going to make a move on Jingyu Royal Palace in the future? Hearing Su Yun's words, the few people in charge were alarmed. They felt that Su Yun's appetite was getting bigger and bigger. If he really swallowed Jingyu Royal Palace, then Su Yun's power would no longer be able to hide. However, they did not dare to refute Su Yun's orders, and immediately did as he said, sending out a small team to quickly escort the rogue cultivators back to the immortal-seeking sect. At the same time, Su Yun, under the lead of the disciples of the Eight Unity sect, headed towards the Eight Unity sect. Under Su Yun's request, the disciples of the Eight Unity sect surrounded him and Faceless as they advanced forward. The two of them were handcuffed as though they were captured, but compared to the two sides, Su Yun's face was relaxed. On the other hand, the disciples of the Eight Unity sect all had nervous expressions, their bodies were trembling, and even though they were flying, they were swaying, as though they could fall from the sky at any time. "I hope that you don't doubt my methods. When you get close to the Eight Unity sect, put on an act. If you still maintain such an expression, you will definitely be seen through. If that's the case, I'm afraid that you won't be able to return to the Eight Unity sect, and I won't be able to enter the Eight Unity sect." Just then, Su Yun said indifferently. Hearing that, the disciples of the Eight Unity sect all trembled. They tried their best to control their emotions, hide the fear in their hearts, and maintain a calm expression. Seeing that, Su Yun curled up his body, and looked like he was trembling, looking like a captured lamb. In terms of acting skills, Su Yun believed that he was the best among these immortals, because he had always been acting. "If you perform well this time, I will definitely let you go and not take your lives." Su Yun spoke again. "But if you choose to expose all of this, then I can tell you that not only will the Eight Unity sect and even the Four Seas Empyrean not be able to protect you, they will not be able to stop me." We know, Master," a disciple of the Eight Unity sect said with a trembling voice. "Yes." Su Yun nodded his head, but seeing that Faceless was still standing foolishly at the side, he could not help but use his arm to nudge him, and said softly, "Although you don't have to make an expression with the mask on, you should at least squat down and pretend." Faceless was startled, then squatted down. Perhaps the golden-armored Great Immortal had never done such a thing before. The changes in the group had already been reversed, and from the looks of it, it really did seem like it, but only these people knew the actual situation. Very quickly, the group of people approached the Eight Unity sect. Su Yun had never been to the Eight Unity sect before, so he did not know much about the sect. It was only because he was preparing to take action against the sect that he had a rough understanding of it. The disciples of the Eight Unity sect did not lead Su Yun in through the main door, but went around to the side door. Just as they were about to enter, they took out some powder from somewhere and scattered it towards Su Yun and Faceless. When the powder fell, the two of them immediately disappeared. Go forward, Master," the disciple of the Eight Unity sect said in a trembling voice. Hearing that, Su Yun walked forward. There were probably a lot of spies around the Eight Unity sect. Since they had captured him, how could they dare to go through the main door? They didn't dare to bring him in just like that, so it was necessary to disguise themselves. At the side door, there was a disciple dressed in gray clothes waiting for this group of people. Seeing them coming over, the disciple immediately opened the door behind him and walked in. The group of people quickly walked in, and just as they entered, the door was closed. The disciples of the Eight Unity sect stopped, and the disciple dressed in gray who was stationed in front of the door stood in front of them. A strange smile appeared on his face. He sized them up and said, "Oh, I can't tell, Li Jing, you guys can actually catch fish? TSK, how strange." The disciple called Li Jing scratched the back of his head and pretended to be simple and honest. "There are also a few idiots who are walking towards the dome door." "Haha, is there anyone more stupid than you?" "Ha ha 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 ha." The disciple dressed in gray laughed out loud. The ridicule in his voice was very strong. However, the person called Li Jing did not dare to be angry and continued to smile. "Senior brother Lu Yi is right, there is no one more stupid than me, ha 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 ha. Alright, stop talking about these useless things with lousy. Remove the invisibility and let me see what you've caught." The man called Lu Yi waved his hand, and placed his gaze in the middle of the disciples of the Eight Unity sect. When Li Jing saw this, he nodded to the disciples next to him. Those people understood and immediately cast Immortal Technique. A spiral-like halo floated down from above and directly enveloped the disciples. Not long after, two people curled up on the ground with their hands and feet chained up appeared in the middle of the halo. Seeing that, the man called Lu Ye's expression that was filled with anticipation immediately revealed a deep sense of disappointment. "What? Two grown men? There's not even a female immortal?" Senior brother Lu Yi, this Li Jing's face was filled with helplessness. Lu Ye's lecherous nature was something that many of the senior brothers and junior brothers knew about, especially the immortals who were captured and brought into the Eight Unity sect. Lu Yi wanted to force them to cultivate together, play with them for a while, and then hand them over. He was an elite disciple of the sect, a direct disciple of an elder, and his status was above these ordinary disciples. Even if something happened, the elders would take care of it for him, which was why he dared to act so recklessly. In the past, he had only deceived some of the female disciples who had just entered the Eight Unity sect, but now, he had directly threatened these female immortals. Alright, what bad luck. It wasn't easy for your team to capture someone, but it's two grown men. It's really annoying to look at them. Hurry up and take them away. Save me the trouble of looking at them. After Lu Yi finished speaking, he looked at Su Yun who was curled up on the ground. The more he looked, the angrier he became. He then raised his leg and kicked towards his head. Damn it! Although this kick was used to vent his anger, the force behind it was not small. In Lu Ye's eyes, these immortals who had been captured and brought into the Eight Unity sect could not even be considered humans. They could only be considered animals. If he wanted to play with them, he could play with them. However, just as the kick approached Su Yun, his leg to the base of his thigh suddenly turned into minced meat. One of his legs was gone in an instant. Lu Yi was stunned. He didn't even have time to feel the pain, nor did he have time to react. He saw the man in the cloak suddenly stand up, and the man with the grayish-brown mask beside him punched him in the chest. In an instant, this living person had actually been directly torn into pieces. He was completely dead. Li Zheng and the rest widened their eyes as they looked at this scene in shock. Lu Ye's body shattered, and the soul within his body also flowed out. However, the soul actually trembled violently, and the color of the soul quickly dimmed. In the end, it actually disappeared without a trace. One punch to shatter the body, shaking the soul to death. The opponent was even an immortal, an elite disciple of the Eight Unity sect. Was this still a power that they could recognize? Li Zheng and the rest all looked at the masked man in shock. They could not believe what they had just seen. Chapter 1052. Lu Yi was directly killed, but there was not much of the smell of blood. The cloaked man took a deep breath, and all the blood qi that leaked out from Lu Ye's broken body was sucked into his body. Because the masked man used pure power, and did not even leak out immortal qi, the people from the Eight Harmonies sect could not sense it at all. If Li Zheng and the rest had not seen it with their own eyes, they would not have believed that in that instant, a second stage spirit profound immortal existence had quietly died. Su Yun stood up, waved the chain in his hand, and turned to Li Zheng and the rest. "Don't waste time, bring us to see the Four Seas Empyrean." Li Zheng immediately quivered. He regained his senses and anxiously led the way. Previously, he was afraid of Su Yun and the rest because he saw Wei Ming, Qin Qianlong and the other famous great immortals bow down to Su Yun, which was why he was intimidated. But now, the situation was different. The strength that Faceless had displayed had completely made Li Zheng unable to resist. An existence that could casually kill immortals, how could they provoke him? Li Zheng was not loyal to the Eight Harmonies sect, or rather, the reason why he joined the Eight Harmonies sect was because he wanted to have a cultivation environment. After all, with someone to guide him, he would be able to avoid many detours, and the Four Seas Empyrean was also quite famous, which was why he joined the Eight Harmonies sect. However, to say that he would shed his blood for the Eight Harmonies sect, he believed that it was impossible for him to do so, and there was no need for him to do so. He did not know why Su Yun wanted him to bring him to the Four Seas Empyrean, but he knew that today, perhaps today, the Eight Harmonies sect would welcome the greatest disaster in history. He understood a principle that there was karma in this world, and that there was a cycle of karma. Since the Four Seas Empyrean had continuously refined and killed immortals for the sake of cultivation, then he would definitely make those immortals who had died pay the price. Perhaps even Li Zheng himself would bear the responsibility for everything he had done before. Li Zheng took a deep breath, and looked at the few senior and junior brothers beside him, only to see that they were all nervously staring at the two powerful fellows. Obviously, the methods of the two had completely frightened them, to the point that they were unable to hide their emotions. This couldn't go on. Li Zheng sucked in a deep breath, then reminded them in a low voice. Everyone regained their senses and nodded, not daring to be careless. This group of people took a secluded path with very few people. According to Li Zheng, not everyone in the Eight Unity sect knew about the Four Seas Celestial Venerate. At least, most people thought that the Eight Unity sect was just a pure immortal cultivation sect, and nothing more. When Li Zheng led Su Yun and the rest to the Four Seas Great Hall in the central region of the Octave Door, it was already half an incense stick of time later. Su Yun sized up the Four Seas Palace from afar, and saw that it was a palace that was several times larger than the other buildings around it. The entire palace seemed to be a little shabby, and it was unknown what material was used to build the palace, but the walls of the palace were overflowing with a bit of grey qi, and there was a dark light flashing at the top, which was extremely strange, and what was even stranger was that there were not many disciples guarding the surroundings of the palace, and it was especially secluded, giving off a strange feeling. "This is it," Li Jing said in a low voice, then silently walked to the front of the palace and shouted, "Senior Brother Mu, Senior Brother Tong, open the door." Creak, the strange door of the hall was slowly pushed open, and two figures walked out from inside. "What are you arguing for? What are you arguing for? If you dare to make any more noise, I'll teach you a lesson." The man on the right, who was called Senior Brother Mu, shouted with an arrogant attitude. When the two of them saw that the ones who came to hand over the person were actually Li Zheng's group, they immediately revealed surprised expressions. "Eh? Li Zheng? It's you guys? What? Did you catch a fish?" The man called Senior Brother Tong glanced at Li Zheng and asked. "I was just lucky," Li Zheng pretended to be honest again. "Is that so?" The two of them looked at Su Yun and Faceless, only to see that Faceless was wearing a mask. His face could not be seen, while Su Yun was wearing a cloak. His face could not be seen clearly. The two of them were dressed rather mysteriously, but their cultivations were only at the first stage of the spirit profound immortal, Su Yun could use the imperial battle robe to change his cultivation, and Faceless had his own methods. Senior Brother Tong looked at the two of them and frowned. Is this the fish you caught? I really don't feel good looking at it. Stop talking nonsense. Let's bring them in and deal with them first. In any case, they will suffer in the future. Senior Brother Mu sneered. He immediately grabbed the iron chains that bound the two of them and pulled with all his might. Come in! The two of them seemed to be unable to withstand the force. With a stagger, they stumbled into the great hall, almost falling down. They were in a sorry state. Seeing this, the two of them laughed out loud. Li Zheng stood outside the hall in a daze, looking at the two people who were gradually disappearing into the hall. His heart tensed up again. What are you still standing here for? There's nothing for you to do here, get lost. Seeing that Li Zheng was still outside the hall, Senior Brother Mu snorted inwardly and shouted. Li Zheng's body trembled, and he hurriedly bowed to him, then hurriedly retreated. You're not leaving and you still want to ask for a reward? You caught 2 salted fish and you want a reward? You really don't know the immensity of heaven and earth. The disciple with the surname Mu sneered, then directly closed the door. Li Zheng, who had not gone far, naturally heard this sentence. After all, the disciple with the surname Mu did not deliberately avoid anything. Although it made people feel angry, Li Zheng had no reason to be angry at this moment. He quickly walked towards his own cultivation area, so much so that the senior and junior brothers beside him did not care. Senior brother, where are you going? The few of them hurriedly called out. When Li Zheng heard this, he raised his head and said in a low voice, Naturally, it's my own cultivation area. Cultivation area? Senior brother, we brought such people into the sect. If something happens, I'm afraid we won't be able to escape responsibility. A disciple walked forward and said in a low and heavy voice. I know. Li Zheng nodded and said, So, I'm going back to the cultivation area to pack up. We must immediately leave the 8 Unity Gate. We can't stay here any longer, otherwise we will die. Go? Senior brother, has already decided to leave? What? You still don't want to go? Now, let's not talk about the purpose of these 2 people coming to the 8 Unity Gate. Just think about what punishment the sect will give to us after they cause trouble here. If I'm not wrong, perhaps we will be brought into that hall and thrown into the cauldron to refine pills. This may not be true. Moreover, if something happens, with the means of those 2 almighty beings, I'm afraid this place will also become a place of trouble. It's also possible to be affected and die. So, no matter what the situation is, we can't stay here any longer. Go. The faster we go, the better, Li Zheng said in a low voice. When these words fell, these disciples who were still somewhat hesitant made up their minds and nodded in unison. That's good, we'll go with you, senior brother. Good, after the time it takes for half an incense stick to burn, gather at the side door. Yes. Clang. The sound of iron chains smashing the ground came out. Su Yun and Faceless dragged the heavy iron chains, and stumbled into the hall. However, just as the 2 of them entered the hall, the originally quiet hall suddenly sounded out with waves of ghostly wails. Some were screaming miserably, some were moaning weakly, and some were wailing in a low voice. All kinds of sounds mixed together, and the air was filled with a pungent stench. Su Yun and Faceless were startled, and looked forward at the same time, but this glance caused the 2 of them to be alarmed. Above the great hall in front of them, there were hundreds of chains hanging down, and on each chain there was an immortal. The entire hall shook from the deafening sound. 4C's heavenly venerate's expression tensed as he looked in the direction of the voice. The sound is coming from the mountain gate. Disciple Tong cried out anxiously. Is someone here to cause trouble? The disciple surnamed Mu quickly ran out. However, he hadn't run for long when he saw a disciple of the 8 Unity Gate anxiously running towards him. Disaster! Disaster! The disciple shouted at the top of his lungs. Seeing this, the disciple surnamed Mu immediately rushed forward and kicked him over. What are you panicking for? Don't you see that Master is here? The disciple rolled on the ground and raised his head. Only then did he clearly see the old man who had walked out of the hall. He was so scared that his face turned pale. He immediately knelt on the ground and fiercely knocked his head on the ground. This disciple was reckless, please forgive me, Sect Master. What happened? Why are you so flustered? The 4 C's Celestial Master said indifferently. The disciple immediately raised his head and pointed in the direction of the mountain gate. He said anxiously, Sect Master, someone is attacking from outside. We can't stop them at all. Someone is attacking? The 4 C's Celestial Master was startled. Who dares to behave atrociously in front of my 8 Unity Gate? This disciple doesn't know that person, but Elder Zhang, who rushed over, recognized him. He called that person something. Wei Ming. Yes, Elder Zhang called that person Wei Ming. That person is too strong. Elder Zhang couldn't even touch him when he exchanged blows with him. His physical body was blasted apart and he died. The disciple spoke in terror, as if he had thought of something extremely terrifying. His voice trembled as he spoke. What? Wei Ming? The 4 C's Celestial Master was truly shocked when he heard this. Wei Ming? Master, is it that Dali Palace's Wei Ming? The disciple surnamed Tong asked. Apart from him, is there another Wei Ming who dares to act impudently in my 8 Unity Gate? The 4 C's Celestial Master said solemnly, That's not strange. As an elder of Dali Palace, Wei Ming is proficient in the Dali Palace technique. Although Elder Zhang is an elder, his cultivation isn't strong. Compared to others, he isn't on the same level. It's not strange that he was killed. He waved his hand and said indifferently, Summon all the elders back. Send all the elite disciples in the sect to face the enemy. Although Dali Palace's Palace Master Kuei Yang is dead, Qin Qianlong, who has taken over Dali Palace, isn't simple either. Wei Ming can't be underestimated either. Dali Palace's current strength is still very strong. Immediately issue the highest level of alert. The 4 C's Celestial Master leaped and flew away as he spoke. Yes. The 2 disciples shouted. The disciple surnamed Tong immediately ran away.